Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode of the show that's still trying to work its stuff out with its bookie, because we talked a lot of football last week, and boy, did we have a lot of guesses and hits and misses. So hopefully we don't owe that much money. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Dad's Turn to Talk. My name is Derek. I'll be the moderator for this evening. And with us, boy, we have a packed house tonight, and I couldn't be more pleased. We have a new guest and a returning guest. And then I will go ahead and introduce the co-hosts, as always. Let us go ahead and welcome the first guest. Trey, welcome to the show. We know that you are friends with Josh.
That's
I know, iffy. Well, if you'd just like to introduce yourself a little bit and tell everybody about yourself, feel free, and then we'll keep on moving here.
Hi, I'm Trey. I've lived in LA for 20 odd years, and I've been a producer for most of that time. And I met Josh at my children's school, and he sticks on to me every day of my life, and I can't get rid of him. And he asked me to do this, so I'm on.
He's like gum on your shoe, you know, he just doesn't come off.
You have been friends with him for a while, haven't you? Well, Trey, we couldn't be more thrilled to have you here. Thanks for joining. All right, our returning champion, our returning guest this time. We are lucky to be able to have camera for him this time. This is the Sensei Master, or one of them, of the Blair Witch Project. And thank you so much again for your contributions with that before.
Thanks.
And welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks. And I'm glad to have Trey here, an old friend and someone who also is a voice of sanity in direct opposition with Josh.
All right, very good. Okay. Well,
here it comes.
Here it comes. Let's get into the other co-hosts that everybody is familiar with. Folks, the first one is one that is lucky enough to have survived what happened with Florida State University. He's still trying to work it out with the bookie, but really there was nothing to, be too worried about there. The one and only Bob, ladies and gentlemen. Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm here at Notre Dame Stadium. I've got Ryan Day. I've got Ryan Day here with us because Josh was ready to fire him. But now he's made the playoffs, and he made it all the way to the championship, and he decided to join me here tonight to say his piece about Josh. So we know how much Josh loves Notre Dame, so I'm happy to be here.
Fighting Irish, baby.
Sports ball.
Because I don't even like Notre Dame, but I know Josh hates
yes,
them so
you
much.
do.
So.
You love Notre Dame. Stop lying to everybody. You're not a Florida State fan. You're a Notre Dame fan.
Josh, you're a USC fan. You didn't even go to that school.
Doesn't matter. I've lived here longer than I lived in Tucson.
Doesn't matter. No, Josh, you didn't go there. You never attended a course there.
You know what, Derek? Shut up.
And with that, the one and only Josh, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Josh.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see everybody. Glad that Trey and Ben are here tonight. I won't be. Yeah. Oh God. Hey, I'm Bob's a big fan too, so I'm very curious what he thinks of your opinions. So I'm glad to have you guys on. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
All right. We'll wait for that, Ben. we don't want to insult. We don't want to insult our guests. All right. With that, why don't we go ahead and start up with the first topic of the evening, Bob, if you would.
Oh God.
All right, that's right, folks. For some of us, it may be a fun topic of discussion. For some of us, it may be very painful, or maybe a combination of both, depending on who you are. All right, we are here to talk about the Star Wars prequels and sequels, and by that, of course, we mean the Star Wars that were episodes 1, 2, and 3, and the episodes 7, 8, and 9. When we talk about Star Wars, of course, folks, we all know what the Bible is, and that's 4, 5, and 6, and that will forever be the Holy Grail. There is nothing that will ever be more Jesus-like when it comes to science fiction than 4, 5,
I don't know.
and
The
6.
Acolyte was pretty close, so.
All right. Now I feel sick. All right. Physically ill. All right. Let's get into the discussions here, because what we're going to talk about first are the prequels, then the sequels. What we'll do is we'll give a little bit of detail just in terms of the trilogy of the first three. Bob is going to bring this point up extensively, so I will do it first, and then he can use it to his strength. The first three were made by Lucasfilms. That's right, distributed by 20th Century Fox. The first one was released in May of 1999. Yep, that's right. Let that date yourselves. And that actually grossed. Do you guys want to take a guess at the gross?
1.5 billion.
Wow.
Wow.
They re-released it like last summer, and it still made like 20 million.
You're probably not wrong.
I'd say 475 million. That's my guess.
75 million?
475.
475 million. Okay.
Since release, Trey, really?
Oh, since release? Oh, I thought, sorry.
Now the question is that domestic or are we talking worldwide?
Yeah.
Okay, that is actually worldwide.
Worldwide?
Worldwide since its release. So for the last 26 years, that's what we're talking about, right?
Oh no, or are we talking about when it got released and it was in theaters in 99?
That's what I was the theater release.
Okay. Let's
really?
Don't
worry about it, Derek. He made a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm talking. I think I'm doing what Ben is talking about here. Overall.
Oh, no clue. No clue. Yeah, in the billions.
I stick with 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I say $1 billion.
1.3.
You know what? You guys aren't too far off. It was 1.047 billion.
Okay.
Half of an Avatar 2.
I wonder what that would be with inflation.
Well, exactly. And I was about to say the budget for the first one was actually 115 million, which back then, probably could have been a significant amount if we were to put inflation on that too.
Yeah, I bet accounting for inflation, you're probably talking about at least a $200 million movie.
There you go.
At minimum.
Yep. Okay.
So that green paint doesn't make itself. They got to buy it by the gallon.
That's right. You got to. I mean, yeah, you got to get it where you can, man. All right. The second one is Star Wars 2, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. That one was actually released on May 16th of 2002. God, it feels like a long time ago, but yet not really. I'm not sure how that works. Same budget for this one though. 115 million. Anybody want to take the box office on this one?
I'm going to say it was less. I'm going to say 850 million.
975.
Okay.
I bet it's more. I bet it's like 1.2 billion.
653.8 million.
It took a 40% tumble. Really? Yeah.
That's crazy.
Jake Lloyd, packs him in, man. What can we say?
Yeah. I'm sorry to be the bearer.
That was Jar Jar bringing him in right there. So
that's the line of the night. Jake Lloyd packs him in, man.
Yep. All right, and finally,
I don't blame Jake Lloyd for any of the horrible things that he was forced to do. Go on.
I know, that poor guy.
The final one, which is Josh probably sleeps with a copy of this at bed at night.
I do.
Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. This one had a budget of 113 million.
No.
Yeah, it sure did. Want to take a guess on the box office for this one?
1.1.
I'd
say in between, somewhere in the 800s.
Okay.
35,000. I'm going with $35,000.
$1.
$1.
$1.
As a matter of fact, it was 868.4. So Trey, you get the win on that one. Not 35,000. Not 35,000.
Not $1.
All right. So that just gets into just a little bit of the news and notes about the prequels. Let's go round robin here, and we'll start talking about what the thoughts were on them. Trey, you are the new guest, so why don't you go ahead and start with your thoughts?
Well, I saw the first one, I believe, on opening day, and I think all the hype made us think it was all right, because everyone that walked out of the theater was excited about it and was like, "Oh, that was great, right?" Right? And then about a week later, we're like, "That sucked," and it just got worse from there on. It was just bad acting. It's too much CGI. It's directed poorly. It was stilted. There was no emotional development. There was dumb characters. It was just, on top of all that, they ruined the Force in these movies for me with metachlorians and made it like it was a disease and not this like mystic power of the universe. It just became space herpes. And I can't. And going back and think, I haven't seen these movies probably in at least 20 years now, and I think right since the beginning. And I can't imagine myself going back and enjoying them again. It just feels like a slog. I don't know how Josh has watched it more than once.
Oh, I love them. I love them.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
No, you love the third. You don't love any of the others.
I like the second one.
I can confirm slog because my son watched the original trilogy and then was like, was Darth Vader ever a boy? And I'm like, turns out there's a whole movie about that. Want to see it? And we watched the prequels, and they are the biggest slog. All three of them. It's like walking through boring molasses.
No.
On a cold winter day.
Come on.
Oh my God.
What are you talking about? Really?
Well, let's
Ben, I was about to lead into you anyway, so if you'd like to give your thoughts, just in terms of your honesty.
I had just moved out to LA that year. So I've been in LA for 26 years, and there was a line. There were people waiting for weeks to see it at Mann's Chinese Theater. I actually met a friend of mine who I'm still friends with, and she was writing for an online outlet covering the people who were waiting online. And hilariously, the second day it was open, I just went up to Mann's Chinese Theater box office and bought a ticket and saw it. And sometime in the middle of the pod race, which is simultaneously a half an hour and 7 hours into this miserable death march through George Lucas's boring ass story, I was struggling to stay awake, and I was like, I think I hate this. And I think maybe my first or one of my earliest memories of seeing a movie ever was seeing the original Star Wars in the theater with my dad. I was 7 years old. I was young when the first one came out. I would have been 6. And we saw it in the theater, and it was magical. And I remember seeing the second one, and it was magical. And I remember seeing Return of the Jedi. I saw Return of the Jedi twice on opening weekend.
Yeah.
And I love Return of the Jedi. And I know there's a lot of people who don't like Return of the Jedi. We can talk about Return of the Jedi's faults. I love Return of the Jedi. All three of those movies to me are holy grail level awesomeness. And then I could not wait to see this when it came out. And we're like 45 minutes into it before they even introduce Anakin. They cast Jake Lloyd, who, no offense, he's a kid. I'm not trying to be mean to a kid, although he's a fully grown person now. He's a terrible actor, but it's not his fault because they take great actors. George Lucas takes great actors like Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson and Natalie Portman. She's yeah. You're right. She is in the first one, and they are like all of them a block of wood reciting this stupid fairy tale that George Lucas has been telling himself since the 1970s. This slow, like this. It's like that story you told over and over and over again, like a joke that you told so many times that it's incapable of being funny anymore. This story cannot be entertaining by the time it comes out of George Lucas. And what I was saying to Josh, and this is what I truly believe, and I know we're getting into the sequel series later, but to me, the prequels get the story part right, but everything else they get wrong. They get the feel wrong. They get the pacing wrong. I've recently rewatched Empire Strikes Back. That movie grabs you and never lets go. It's so great. It is a perfect movie.
It's the number one out of all of them.
I agree.
A lot of people, yes.
But like these movies never get a hold of you, and just kind of, it's like an old creep at the end of the bar telling you some goofwad story about space wizards that he's all obsessed with, and it is pure. It is such a joyless, ugly. And did I mention it's ugly? They don't look good. These films look bad. It's a joyless, ugly slog. And
it's a video game cutscene.
Yes. Yeah, it's like watching a dork play a video game over their shoulder, and like,
Lucas is the dork in this
yeah,
situation.
and it's like a circa 1998, which is when they're 1997, 1998 when they're making it. It's like watching somebody playing PlayStation 1 and trying to get excited over it. And like I feel that I kind of know Ahmed best, the guy who plays Jar Jar. Great guy, super talented actor, great fight director. I could say all kinds of great things about Ahmed. I don't think he did a bad job. I think he did exactly what he was told, and what he was told to do was idiotic. That's I could go on and on and on, but that's the baseline of where I'm coming from.
So you're a fan? Okay, good.
Huge fan.
Wow.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I shudder to ask Bob what he thinks of this after those two reviews. But Bob, go ahead.
After that, I gotta say I really hate these movies.
Hey, we won, Trey. All right, goodbye.
I've never seen such pieces of crap in my whole life. Okay, here's my feelings on the prequels. A lot of what you're saying, I can agree with. There is a lot of valid points you make. I think the acting is atrocious in a lot of the prequels, and I've told Josh that I think the acting is bad, and a lot of that I don't know if it's because they were using exclusively green screen, or it's just the fact that George Lucas has a history of not really getting the best performances out of his actors. That's not.
There are so many all green screen movies that have tremendous performances.
Yeah, I don't want to use that as an excuse.
They're relative contemporaries to Lord of the Rings, for God's sake.
Yeah, so I don't want to use that as an excuse because, again, Lucas is not known for being a character actor. But you did touch on something that I wanted to add on. You mentioned that they get the story right. And that's one thing that I appreciate about the prequels is I think that the story for the most part is a pretty good narrative. Now, there are some storyline elements like what you said about the Force, Trey, about how, with the midichlorians and stuff like that. I was not a fan of that. And most people weren't. I like the idea of it kind of being this mystical force. And when I think that makes more sense.
That's my religion growing up. Literally.
Yeah, exactly.
And I believed in that. Like, not that I could move things with my mind. I tried, but it was more that the universe is connected and that you have everyone's a part of it, and you can connect in and tap into that. And then they were just like, nope, herpes. That's it.
Yeah.
Herpes.
But what I liked is I think the story as a whole was solid for the most part. I do like a few of the performances. Ewan McGregor, I think he did a good job with what he was given. And most people do like him as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I thought he was pretty good in the role. The other thing I think that
he doesn't make it any worse. I'll give him that.
Yeah. The other thing I think that the prequels do really well is I think they do a lot of good world building for the most part. I mean, there are some stupid things like the taxation of trade routes and stuff like that. That's just
God.
boring.
Episode 1 is like C-SPAN with aliens for so much of it.
I actually hated episode 2 more than I hated episode 1, and I shouldn't say I hated it. That episode 2 was my least favorite, but I think they do some good world building, especially when you add in the Clone Wars to part of that, because that expands on some of the world building that they did. Also, I like the fight choreography for the prequels. I think that it was really cool seeing the Jedi in their prime. So those are things that stand out to me. And at the end of the day, as opposed to the sequels, I know we're going to touch on those. You can't. I know people say, well, the sequels might feel more like Star Wars, and you got those that say the prequels feel more like Star Wars. To me, the prequels feel more like Star Wars, and you can't get any more Star Wars than being made by the creator. I mean, you may not like that different direction, but at the end of the day, the creator still is the one who made those. I think what would have benefited the prequels is if they had done what they did with the original trilogy, and that is he directs the first one, but then you have different directors for the second and the third one. I think that would have benefited the prequels as a whole. But as a whole, I don't have a problem with them. And over the years, I've grown a lot more fond of them. I really enjoyed them at the time. I understand what you're saying, Trey, that when you walk out, you're kind of like, because when I thought about it afterwards, especially episode 2, and Josh will tell you that, I was like, there's a lot of dumb acting here and dumb lines in this. But over the years, I've grown a lot more fond of them. And a lot of that is because of the sequels. So
I had a friend, Josh, because we had universally panned the first one after we had like the the effect had worn off. And I had a friend that told me that episode 2 was so much better, and I had to go see it.
Oh,
and
me
I
too.
immediately hated it. It was Josh. It was funny, not this Josh, a different Josh, but
The
also
Josh
a
you and I
Jewish
know?
Josh that has bad taste,
I'm
apparently.
detecting a pattern here.
The Josh you and I know, Trey.
Yeah, Flam. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, the guy who like to this day will like if I bring up Pan's Labyrinth, will tell me it's the worst movie ever made. So yeah.
Oh,
I love Josh. I love Josh to death. He's the best.
He's
guy.
got strong opinions.
He does.
That's
we're
funny.
gonna get into some of those strong opinions later on,
That
aren't
is-
we, Josh?
Go
Yeah.
for it, Josh.
I-
What do you think?
Trey, I don't think it was Josh, but somebody else said the same thing. Like, oh yeah, he solved the problems of the first one and the second one, and it was like the only problem he solved was that he got an older actor to play Anakin who could act a little better. But
That
And
one
Hay-
I hate watched in the theater. I couldn't get. through.
Hayden Christensen is actually a really good actor too. Like I just think it's not that George Lucas is not a good director of actors. It's that I feel like he gets the worst out of them. I feel like he is puppeteering actors and giving them no motivation, no understanding of what they're doing. And you hear this over and over again. Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, when she was alive, would joke about it. You know, that he just didn't give them a lot of useful direction. I think that he has the story. You're there to serve the story. You're not there to serve the moment. And again, I'll bring up another movie. So Lord of the Rings came out 2 years, I think, after this. But
Yes, they
the
did.
Matrix, the first Matrix came out the same year. And I
Yep.
remember talking Trey to our mutual friend, Jonathan Mangum. And Jonathan and I was like, are you excited for Star Wars? He's like, it's going to suck. The Matrix is going to be the movie of the summer. And I'm like, up yours, man. Star Wars is awesome. And then he was completely right. I would rather watch the first Matrix 3 times in a row than watch any one of the prequels.
I agree with that. I think the first Matrix is a heck of a lot better than
It's
episode 1 or episode 2. I can't argue with you there.
I would argue the second and third Matrices are better than all of them. And those
Is
were
it
pretty bad.
matrices or matrices?
Matrix I?
Right?
Hey, as long as you leave which one is it? The fourth one, Resurrections, out of it, you're
I honestly, I'm not a fan of anything the Wachowskis have directed since the first Matrix, but that's enough. The first Matrix, I'll put against almost any movie ever made. So
Yeah, it's a work of art. That movie is. Yeah. All
All
right,
right,
Josh,
Josh.
front and center. Make your case to the jury.
So look, I agree with all of you about like the
get out of here. No, I'm just teasing you, Josh. I'm sorry.
whoa, that was just mean.
I
No,
thought I
it's
did
because
that.
We were teasing it before the show. So
I honestly thought I did that because I full screened at the exact same moment you kicked him. And I was like, oh man, did I kick him?
no, Josh is gonna get it back to us a little bit later. So he's got his moment coming. So
anyway, look, I get what you guys are saying about the acting and everything. I grew up with the originals, just like we all did. Love the originals. I enjoyed the prequels. And maybe it's because, Bob, Derek, and I are younger than you guys. And
Oh, I see.
I was
ageism.
Oh,
really, Josh?
That's
maybe
cute.
maybe more excited about it. We were in high school and
Yeah,
we're like,
that's
"Oh my
right.
God,
Keep trying to dig your way out.
Uh-huh.
yeah. That's only out of love. Anyway,
That's right. When I was in high school, I liked garbage too. Now that I think about it,
wow.
Boy, you
grow.
walked into that one, Josh.
Teenagers
Yeah,
are
you
stupid.
did.
Anyway, like the podcast I was not a fan of in Phantom Menace. I've told Bob I like the second one better than the first one. And I love the third one. To me, I look at it as storytelling where they're showing you how he became Darth Vader.
Yeah, but they're showing it in a very poor way. So
Yes, I did. The third one, really? You thought up until I thought
Oh.
everything was great about the third one.
oof.
I love the third one. I love the fights in it, and I love the ending, and I love how you see things. I know, Ben, you've said we know what's he.
Yeah, there's
Um,
no stakes in the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin because we know exactly how it ends. We the only thing we don't know is that it's going to be a 45-minute fight scene on a lava flow. But other than that, it's like we know who's going to win. There's never a moment where I'm like, oh crap, Obi-Wan's going to lose. Never.
Well,
Not for
no,
a second. You know why? Because I know he lives.
right.
I know they both live. I know Darth Vader gets horribly disfigured. I mean, honestly, They could have just cut to a shot of Hayden Christensen slipping in the shower and then showing him getting the suit, and it would have been exactly as thrilling to me.
Oh my god!
It is the unthrillingest, most turgid fight scene. Also, I don't believe for a second that they are in the environment that they're supposed to be in. It is the green screeniest, fakiest looking video game looking CGI landscape that I could possibly imagine. And I like the thing about the original Star Wars movies that was ripped off by everybody. Alien ripped them off almost immediately. Is that they lived in a lived-in world, and the new ones, or the prequels rather, all live in this world where everything looks like it just came out of the shipping container, and it's all fake. It's all CGI. Everything in their entire universe is fake and plastic and looks like a video game. And that fight scene is no different. Like, it looks like real Ewan McGregor and real Hayden Christensen fighting on a green screen. You know, they maybe did some lighting gags on their face to make the light a little bit more orange here or there, but I never for 1 millisecond believed that they were in any environment or that anyone was in danger or wondered what was going to happen, because I knew what was going to happen because I saw the originals.
You ruined it for me. I thought that they were fighting by a real volcano.
That wasn't real lava?
And
But that was real the whole time.
When my son plays The Floor is Lava, it is more thrilling and realistic for me.
oh my god!
Look, I happen to like the fight. I like the fight between Yoda and Sidious. I agree with you that it is a lot of green screen. I mean, that whole fight between Yoda and Sidious, that's nothing but CGI, because that's not Ian McDermott, doing any of that stuff. But at the end of the day, I happen to enjoy it.
It was Christopher Lee, right? It wasn't. Yeah.
What's that?
It wasn't Ian McDermott. It was Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
No, I'm in Revenge of the Sith. It was Ian McDermott.
It was fun watching Yoda fight. I mean, I'll admit, because
we didn't need to see that in a
3-hour
movie. Like, that could have been gotten to so much quicker. Like, the fun parts of those movies are so few and far between. It's just, slog is the best word. I think it's just a slog.
No, it was good. I loved them.
I mean, I don't want to take away your love of it, Josh, because no more than
I want to.
No more than you can take away my love of Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, like,
there we go.
Fantastic movie.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean,
out, Josh.
People can like whatever they like. People can love whatever they love. I think it's great that you love it. Here's the thing. As a mega fan of the original ones, the prequels broke my fandom. And I would say in a bigger way, it made me realize how fragile my fandom of all things was and how bad anything can be after it was awesome. And it made me realize that something that I thought was
untouchable.
Yes. Star Wars was like the best of the best. And the guy who created it couldn't leave well enough alone. If he had just not made those prequels, he obviously would have made a few $1 billion less in his life. So it was probably worth it to him. But if he had not made those prequels, the original ones would have stood high as 3 of the greatest films and like the greatest trilogy ever made. And by doing what he did, he completely watered down what made his work good and showed us why he hadn't actually directed a movie since the original Star Wars. He hadn't directed anything since 1977. 20 years go by, and that's the first thing he'd ever directed. Now, we hear stories that he's behind the scenes directing all of the Star Wars movies and doing some second unit on the Indiana Jones movies. Even I heard that he directed stuff in the Radioland Murders, which he produced. But he hadn't been like the guy. He hadn't been the director. I agree. Another director would have been a good idea, but another director would have come in with their own ideas that he wouldn't have wanted. I think he wanted a literal translation. He wanted like someone to put a suction cup to his forehead and suck all the ideas out and spew them onto the big screen for him. And that's what he did, because he was in a place where he was rich and powerful enough that nobody on earth would say no to him. Nobody would say, "I'm sorry, George, that's a dumb idea. Jar Jar is a stupid character. You shouldn't do it." Nobody would say that to him.
Talking about that's the greatest character in the history of cinema.
Oh yeah.
Well, and he had all the money in the world to do whatever he want, and I think limitations are helpful with art. And I think that he was limited when he made the original trilogy, and he was not. He had, it was a kid in the candy store, and he just, he lived long enough to see himself become the villain. I think.
You're so right. Oh my God.
He had full control, and he just botched it. Like, I think that collaboration is really important on these movies, and creativity set through the limitations, whether it be budget or this has never been done before in creating. And you get in that like mindset, and you have people around you that can weigh in on it. And if you don't allow that to happen, if you are the only one, you just it's hubris, and it just doesn't. It never gives you the audience what they want.
Exhibit A, Megalopolis, just came out this year by George Lucas's old pal Francis Ford Coppola, self-financed, $120 million. Have any of you seen it?
No,
I didn't see it, but I heard it didn't do too well at the box office.
I saw it.
Why'd you do that to yourself?
I'm here to say somebody else should have stepped in. Similarly, Kevin Costner. Yeah, it has good ideas in it, but it is bad, and it's like not entertainingly, hilariously bad like the Star Wars prequels, but it is bad. And another one, and I didn't see it, was the Kevin Costner partially self-financed movie Horizon.
I saw that.
Yeah, tanked. It's like I hate to say it because I make movies and I want someone to be like, hey Ben, you're a genius. Here's $200 million. Do whatever you're going to do. But honestly, I think that having the guardrails around you and having to pitch your ideas past someone else and not being completely the captain and the whole crew of your own ship is maybe a good idea. I think, maybe the fact that Lawrence Kasdan wrote The Empire Strikes Back and Irvin Kershner directed it maybe made it 1,000,000 times better than the George Lucas version ever could have been. And it's full of George Lucas's ideas. So so bringing in a Lawrence Kasdan or I don't know, Frank Darabont. I know Frank Darabont was talked about as possibly writing an Indiana Jones movie, and then they didn't do that, and they wrote Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which was also a very much a George. I have heard that both Harrison Ford and Steven Spielberg pushed against the idea of aliens, and they settled at a compromised number of aliens in that movie. It was all George Lucas's idea, and it ruins Indiana Jones. And we can sit here and complain about the Dial of Destiny till we're blue in the face. The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is, to me, the worst movie of the 2000s.
I like the Dial of Destiny. I thought it was kind of fun.
I thought it was all right, but Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I didn't particularly like Dial of Destiny, but I did like it better than Crystal Skull.
Anything's better than Crystal Skull.
I remember people saying the worst movies of the 2000s, and they kept talking, Battlefield Earth kept coming up. I would rather watch Battlefield Earth again than the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull that much.
Ooh.
I saw it.
You've seen it enough. If you've
seen
it, one, you're pretty good. You'll be fine after that.
I love Last Crusade.
I'm so angry.
It's my favorite one.
Okay, that doesn't even touch on what the original 3 Indiana Jones were. I think it's nowhere near it.
No.
Yeah. The truth is, there's only 3 Indiana Jones films. The other 2, just forget about them.
What it is, and I'll tell you, this is what the problem with the prequels. It's fan fiction by the person who's the biggest fan of George Lucas ever, George Lucas. He's making his own fan fiction.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, I have strong opinions about this because it, when people complain about, you made the Lady Ghostbusters and ruined my childhood. I'm like, shut up. You'll have the original Ghostbusters, whatever. Watch whatever you're going to watch. If people like these, that's fine. But if I have a feeling of that broke my childhood, it was the prequels.
Wow. Derek, what do you think about all this?
I don't know if there's going to be much I can say other than what's already said.
Ben's already said it all.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll give a couple of thoughts here. When they released episode 1, I was a senior in high school, and so enough time has lapsed, and Ben gets back to the point of Return of the Jedi. I remember thinking when Phantom Menace got released, I said, well, how are they going to capitalize? How are they going to beat that? I don't think they can. Granted, the point of that movie wasn't to it was to beat it money-wise, but I don't think it was to try to top what they accomplished in episode 6. But I was still just like, I don't know how is that going to work? I remember thinking to myself, I just don't see it. I don't know how you're going to get better than 4, 5, and 6. I remember thinking that then. And then I watched it, and I was like, well, yeah, I think that proved my point. Okay, well, that was fun. I didn't I wasn't vehemently against it. But I had seen enough to be like, okay, yeah, you just proved my point. This isn't going to be 4, 5, and 6. But then again, what is? Yeah. Right? I knew it was unbeatable, and I just saw it for appreciating what I saw, and that was that. And the same go for the other two as well. Let's face it. What do you watch these 3 movies for? And the only reason I say this is because I rewatched episode 1 with my son recently, and we had actually a great time. I started to go back and realize that they probably made episode 1 only to try to maybe get some level of a mass, like, kid appeal to join the theater with all the CGI they had in that. Because
You think so?
Oh yeah, exactly. My son loved the car chase, loved it, adored it.
Yeah.
And okay, he had a good time. So you watch it, the kids watch it for the car race. Dudes like myself back in college watched it for Yoda fighting.
Yeah.
And then you just wanted to see how Darth Vader became Darth Vader. Other than that, that's it.
I would have loved all that minus, the congressional hearings in the middle of it. Like that's the problem I'm having. Like, I wanted to see all that stuff, but then there was all this other stuff that it felt like taking a math test.
Well, to me, here's the biggest question that I had then and now, and I'd like to hear what everyone here has to say about this. If episode 1 had in fact been the first episode, would you have been interested in episode 2? If there had been no episode 4, 5, and 6, and episode 1 was the first Star War that we ever had, would you have had even the slightest interest in episode 2?
I'll just go ahead and answer. If I was watching it as a kid, I would have been interested. If I'd be watching it now, probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to be honest. Episode 1 is like I said, I enjoy the prequels, but I also acknowledge that they are very flawed films, and I love them because I already have that love of Star Wars from the 4, 5, and 6. But I'm not gonna sit here and try to lie to myself and say these are good movies, because they're not. They have bad acting, and the CGI at certain portions looks really bad. So I can't argue any of that.
You love them though. You have all of them, and you
That's
watch
what
them.
I just said. I said I still love them.
Josh, you think he loves them?
But I can't lie. I've told you that they are flawed films, but I still love them. It's one of those things where I've said it's okay to like a bad movie. I love them. I can't.
I mean, it's okay to like or love whatever you like or love. I really don't pass judgment on people for liking them. And I even understand if it's like part of your childhood, I guess. But my question is, if there was no episodes 4, 5, and 6, and Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, came out with nothing else, do you think there even would have been a part 2? Do you think audiences would have been interested in part 2? If that was our first time of dipping our toe into that world?
Probably not.
Well, and there was also some points brought up here that I just got my mind and my memory, jogged up in order to, think about this point too. Think about the level of competition that a lot of the prequels were up against. Like the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out at that time.
Yeah.
The Matrix, the first movie. Yes, the first movie. Came out at that time.
Well, the Matrix movies were giant hits. I mean, I can dislike them all I want, but all 3 were monster hits.
No, understood. Then you also have this was also a hot time when like Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Chow Yun-Fat were making these awesome action movies that everybody was having a blast with. So the competition for action films at that point was pretty intense. And that's what I was more into rather than the Star. I lost interest in the Star Wars story, and that's the stuff I gravitated toward. So that has to be taken into consideration here as well. And I'm sure I'm missing some too. There's probably a bunch of other.
There's a lot of stuff coming out around that time. So
yeah, I mean,
there were major technological things happening, and a lot of them because of George Lucas and Industrial Light and Magic. There's a great documentary on Disney Plus called Light and Magic about ILM. And George Lucas, like, you kind of go, okay, well, what was George Lucas doing between directing the first Star Wars and the rest of his career, when really the next movie he directed was Episode 1? Well, what he was doing was making ILM like the leader of visual effects in Hollywood and pushing the envelope in ways that had never been pushed before. And so, we wouldn't have had the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. We wouldn't have had the Liquid Metal Man in Terminator 2. We wouldn't have had all that stuff without George Lucas. And I would say that like in those two instances, Spielberg and James Cameron, they're just both far superior filmmakers. They're better storytellers. I think George Lucas is a brilliant idea man, but I don't think he's got the execution. And I think giving him the keys to the car is a bad idea. And part of it too is that he was just rusty, man. He hadn't been doing it. Like the first Star Wars, Episode 4 is still a classic for a reason. I've watched that recently with my son, and there's so much right about it. There's so much that would be done differently today, but also everything would be done differently today than a movie made in the mid 70s. Like everything about it is different, but like what he did with that movie was masterful. If he had kept on that track, he might be the greatest filmmaker who ever lived by now. He might be considered that way, but I think that his skill set and like what is directing is storytelling. It's storytelling by working with the writer. It's storytelling by talking to the actors and the cinematographer and post and pacing and sound design and all that stuff. And it's like he gets C- in every column, in my opinion.
Wow.
Ben, just to reiterate, you said that documentary was Light and Magic. Did I get that right?
I think that's what it's called, Light and Magic.
I think I've seen part of it.
Yeah,
I wrote it down. I wanted to watch it.
There's another great one that I know is on Canopy called Jurassic Punk. That's about the guy who basically revolutionized CGI graphics circa Jurassic Park. And his name is Steve Williams, and I'm not log rolling because I had nothing to do with it. But my friend Scott Liebrecht directed it, and I think watching those two things together would give you a pretty strong idea, because what you'll get from Steve Williams is kind of the opposite story that you'll get from Light and Magic, but they're complementary. Like, I don't think that you're going to go like, oh, Light and Magic is all lies. What you're going to realize is that like ILM, like a lot of companies, is not on the up and up with 100% of its employees. And Steve Williams, who revolutionized everything they do, starting with The Abyss, didn't get hardly any credit for what he did.
That's such a good movie. I forgot
That's a good one.
all about The Abyss. That's
Both of those. Check out Jurassic Punk. Last time I saw it, it was on Canopy. Canopy is a free streaming service if you have a library card.
awesome. Thank you for that, man. Got both of those done. Perfect.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Well, are we done talking about the prequels?
Yeah, let's move on.
Because I shudder to ask the next question. Talk about
By the way, Derek, we got to let everyone know to subscribe.
Why don't you let them know, Josh?
Fine. Everybody, make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and we also timestamp different topics. So if there's something that you like, you can go right to it.
Should they smash the like button, as the kids like to say?
Yeah.
Smash the like button.
Smash that like button and hit subscribe.
We apologize for Derek for screwing up and not remembering. So I have to remember everything.
But yeah, next time, just bring it to a screeching halt before you do, Josh. All right.
You want to interrupt anything else while you're at it?
All right, go ahead, Derek.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm ready now.
All right. I think
Okay.
locked and loaded. I can see it. I can see it in your eyes.
This next one. See, Bob just had to leave. He's done. He doesn't even want to talk about this.
I'm still here.
Thank God he left. Let's talk about it.
All right. This next subject obviously has to do about 7, 8, and 9. Yes, there were more of these, folks. And talking about episode 7, that one came out in 2015. Gosh, yeah, that's right. It did. Forgot the year it came out.
10 years ago.
How about that, huh?
Jesus.
It felt like forever, and I wish it stayed that way. December 14th, 2015. Okay. Anybody want to take a guess about the box office here?
That was over 2 billion.
Yes, it was.
Really?
Sure was.
Wow.
2.071 billion. The budget for the film was 447 million.
Jesus.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
That's
You
great.
betcha.
15 cents of that went to the script.
Oh, well, then let's talk about what episode 8 left us with.
Oh,
All
God.
right. Here we go. Episode 8. Wait, hold on. Did I get them right there? Yeah, okay. This one came out just 2 years later, December 15th in 2017. Let's see. The budget for this one was actually $300 million. Want to take a box office guess?
It was like 1.5, 1.6, something like there.
You're not far off, Bob. 1.334 billion.
Oh, okay. I was a little high there.
Yeah, it's all right. You were giving it too much credit. Shocking.
Yeah, way too much.
Right. And of course, the last one, which was the Rise of Skywalker, that came out 2 years later, December 20th, 2019. 416 million was the budget for that one.
That's got
And
good marketing.
yeah,
What the hell, though? I mean, come on.
Yeah. And then just over $1 billion still for this one.
Yeah,
that's the one that lost half its audience. So
Yeah, they took all their money as they went down. All right, well, we might as well start with Trey again. He's the new guest here, so Trey, feel free to take it away.
Okay, so thinking back on these, they all feel like one big movie. Like I can't really remember what happened in each one. There's no through line. I remember liking them way better than the prequels. I know that I think the acting was improved. The story, there was not as much CGI, which I think they tried to take it more back to the roots, which was it's just more enjoyable to watch, and it just felt it was more mature as well. But I honestly, these movies just felt fine to me. They weren't awful. I mean, there were moments that I think were completely awful, like Leia Supermaning. But
oh, good God!
But yeah, I just remember I was in the theater going, "Wait, what's happening now? What is going on?" And the use of like bringing characters back that have passed away just felt like it all felt weird. But I didn't outwardly hate them as much as I hated the prequels. I think it's it.
Oof. Yeah.
They were just boring.
Yeah.
They sucked.
So you're angry about it. See, I wasn't angry. I was just like, I didn't expect them to be good.
See, Josh, that's how I felt about the prequels.
See, I think they were horrible.
See, I figured it out, Ben. You hated the prequels so much that your expectations were so much lower that by the time you got to the sequels, they just had to complete a sentence. And you're like, hey, this is better than the
1 billion %. Yeah. Well, what happened was the prequels broke my fandom, and then the sequel series was like, hey, this is adequate. And here's what I'll say. I said it earlier. I think the prequels have the story right, and the sequel series has the feeling right. And if you could get both right, which is what the original, the episodes 4, 5, and 6 have the story and the feeling, and they work. And with this, there clearly was no path. So if episode what's the last 9, whatever the last one, if the last one had like somehow brought it all together and had like a holy crap moment for us where all of us are, where the audience is like, oh, this makes sense of all the movies, of all 9 of them, including the 3 awful prequels, you'd have this great apotheosis. It would be the perfect way to end it. But the problem is J.J. Abrams made episode 7, and then Rian Johnson made episode 8, and people hated it. Yeah. And I don't know what the plan was for 9, but I think that it got scrapped, and 9 just became a mishmash of garbage because I think they had a release date on a calendar and they were backwards engineering this to that. And it's no way to write a story. There wasn't a master plan for all 3. That being said, I think the like Trey said, I agree with Trey. I think the acting was excellent. There were excellent actors in the prequels. I with the exception of Jake Lloyd, who was kind of too young, there weren't really any like actors who I'd say are not good actors in the prequels. They're great. Christopher Lee and, obviously Ewan McGregor, Liam Neeson, on and on and on. Natalie Portman, such great actors, misused. In this, I think there were great actors who were allowed to act and do a good job. And that does a lot to kind of keep my attention. I think that the art direction in the movie and the world building was just as strong. I think the world building was excellent. And I think that the worlds that they lived in, they felt lived in. They felt like people, like aliens, whatever, that beings were living in these worlds and doing stuff in them. And it didn't feel so labored. The problem is it just didn't have a story that was strong enough. And like when Palpatine comes back in episode 9, it's like, what now? Pardon me? Like that guy's been sitting out the entire world all this time for what now? I don't get any of it. And I feel like they didn't know how to end it. And in the way that the prequels broke my love of Star Wars, episode 9 kind of made me question my fandom of J.J. Abrams.
Well, by the way, Ben, episode 9 originally was supposed to be directed by Colin Trevorrow.
Colin Trevorrow.
Oh, the guy who did the Fantastic Four?
No,
He's
did he?
Didn't he do the?
He's the one who did Jurassic Park, right?
Jurassic World. Oh, I'm
right?
sorry. It was a different guy. I'm sorry. Yeah, Jurassic World. Okay.
I really feel that there's a script floating around in pretty big detail that I think all of us here, if that was the movie, probably would have enjoyed, because it was grounded. It was interesting. You had Luke Skywalker in there as a Force ghost, but he was there throughout. And it almost was like, even the ending, they had, oh God, what's his name? The redhead, Bob. I can't think. I'm drawing a blank right now. The one they made a mockery of in Last Jedi. Hux, where he almost was like not a Hitler type of character, but he was like a dictator.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically had him very powerful. And at the end, he actually uses Mace Windu's lightsaber to kill himself because he knew he was getting captured. And I don't know, it just seemed like it would be good. But as far as everything else, I thought the sequels, where you said the prequels hurt your fandom, the sequels did it to me. Force Awakens, I thought was okay. I think I was excited when it came out because we hadn't seen it, and we didn't know if there'd ever be another Star Wars film. And so, it was good. And then I always remember the story. Last Jedi comes out. Bob, as he does, goes opening night to see it. And I'll never forget, he calls me up and I said, "So what'd you think?" And he goes, "I don't know." And I'm like, "What do you mean you don't know?" He's like, "Josh, think of everything you wanted to happen in this movie. Doesn't happen." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I'm telling you, it's nothing like the trailer. Go see it. Tell me what you think." And I went to see it and I was like, oh my God. And even towards the end of it, I was like, with the whole Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren battle, I'm like, okay, as Trey said, the Flying Mary Poppins, Leia Mary Poppins was horrible. If they had just made that fight a real fight, it could have saved it. And instead, it's a projection across the universe and he dies of a heart attack.
So there might be some truth to that we were just older, Ben, at that time, because we were already dead inside when the sequels came out, and we were like,
lost my childlike sense of wonder.
I know, and you still had that for the prequels, So
right, and then Rise of Skywalker. Look, Rise of Skywalker was not good at all. It is at least that in Force Awakens I can still watch. I don't like it that much. Last Jedi I can watch 5 minutes and I'm done. I'm like, visually it's very nice. Visually,
what Rian Johnson does, and I think he's an amazing filmmaker, is he deconstructs a genre and puts it together in a way that you don't expect it to be. That's why his Glass Onion movies are so good. That's why Brick was so good, is that he looks at a genre and just deconstructs it right in front of your face. And I think Star Wars is maybe not the thing to be deconstructing. Maybe the bad choice was choosing him. You wouldn't want him making a James Bond movie either. He's going to make some weird deconstructionist, subversive ass James Bond, because The Last Jedi is a subversive Star Wars movie. It's not subversive like I Am Cuba, but it's subversive. Like it's just not, it's not what you go to Star Wars for. And so I didn't hate it, but I thought that it was building to something that would pay off in episode 9 that doesn't, that there's no connection to it.
No, it's true. And I think, and also J.J. Abrams, he sat there and he had all these, as Bobby would say, these little breadcrumbs in Force Awakens to say,
I use the word breadcrumbs.
Yes, you did. Yes, you have.
Never said that.
Yes, you have.
You always put words into my mouth.
And said that
and
all
breadcrumbs.
You would go in there, and in Last Jedi, you would find out about it. And of course, it didn't happen because, Rian Johnson went ahead and did his own thing.
No,
But
I
it's
think
like
Ben,
this-
you're absolutely right. Like there was no master plan. It wasn't wrapping
there
itself
wasn't
up in a nice bow. It was just written on a continuous receipt and just like whatever next page it is, and probably written in the moment. And there's too many heads, too many cooks in the kitchen, and that just isn't.
And that's why the
conducive to good
originals are great, because
material.
George Lucas was the only cook in the kitchen, and so he brings in these two, Irvin Kershner and Richard Marquand, who directed Return of the Jedi, weren't bad directors, but they weren't like famous, powerful directors. They were guys who were excellent journeymen who George Lucas could say, "I'm going to tell you what to do, go do it well." And they would fight. I've seen interviews with Irvin Kershner. He would push back on certain things to try and make stuff better, but it was to make stuff better. So it becomes kind of a thesis antithesis with George Lucas, and then they create a synthesis that's better than either one of their ideas. And I get the feeling that in the sequel trilogy, it's not like if J.J. Abrams had been the George Lucas character and had his hand on the reins the whole time, then Rian Johnson wouldn't be allowed to go off and freelance his own Star Wars movie in the way that he did. Rian Johnson would be brought in to tell one story that fit into the whole puzzle. And, I don't think he did. I think he did a good job for himself as a standalone thing. I don't think he made a good Star Wars movie, but I do think Rian Johnson's an amazing director. I think he's an amazing filmmaker, and it was a weird. He was the wrong guy for the job. That happens sometimes.
So here's what I think.
Oh God.
Okay, so
we'll do a joke, and then
episode 7, I enjoyed it when it first came out. I can't lie. I did like it. I liked it a lot. And I thought it did feel like Star Wars. I've said that to Josh. I thought that it did. There are some issues with episode 7, and there's a lot of rehashing of previous ideas, but I thought overall it was good. Plus, J.J. Abrams left some breadcrumbs that everybody could follow. And I thought he set up some good ideas and stuff that could go somewhere. But like you all said, there was no plan for where this was going to go. Like, from my understanding, J.J. Abrams had some ideas as to where stuff could go, but it was never set. Okay, this is what's going to happen. Here's where it's going to go. So that Rian Johnson could turn around and follow up with that. Instead, Rian Johnson did his own thing. And I kind of agree with you, Ben. Like Josh will slam Rian Johnson for everything. I liked Knives Out. I
love his Knives Out movie.
I liked it. He also directed a couple of episodes of Breaking Bad, including one of my favorites. So,
have you ever seen Brick, his first feature?
No, I didn't see Brick.
Really good.
Freaking brilliant.
But I don't think he's a bad filmmaker. But I thought he was clearly the wrong choice for this. And like you said, he does deconstruct a lot of stuff, because it's clear he was deconstructing the character of Luke Skywalker. And that's not what fans wanted to see. Fans had not seen Luke in years. And to finally see him, the last thing that we see of him in episode 7, he's on that island, he's given the lightsaber, and you're like, okay, what's he going to do? What's he going to say to Rey? And then we have to wait 2 years to find out what it is. The first thing he does is he throws the lightsaber away. It was like a complete slap in the face to fans. And that's what I felt that The Last Jedi was, is that it was a slap in the face. It was like Rian Johnson took all of J.J. Abrams' ideas and stuff that he had set up, and he took the paper that was on and just wiped his butt with it and said, no, we're going to go do our own thing with this. And then J.J. Abrams took what ideas that Rian Johnson had, and he wiped his butt with it, and we ended up with something completely awful. This is a completely disjointed trilogy that just has no continuity to it whatsoever. It's all over the place. Like you said, when they brought Palpatine back, that was one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever seen. The way that they do him in, at one moment, he's like grand space wizard, where he's taking down tens of thousands of ships with his lightning, and the next moment 2 lightsabers do him in because he can't push through them. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This has got to be the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
I blocked that. I don't even remember that part.
Oh God, it was awful.
It's so it really is. It really is.
It's ridiculous.
I'm glad Ian McDermott is getting work, though. I mean, the guy needs to work.
Yeah, and so many things that they did in The Last Jedi just were bad. The Rise of Skywalker tried to pick up the pieces, but It was a complete mess. I felt like I was watching The Amazing Race, where they were just moving from one MacGuffin to the next, and it was just all over the place. I really hated this. This broke my fandom for it, specifically The Last Jedi. I hoped Rise of Skywalker would pick it back up. I went to see it, and I was just like, oh my God, this is awful. And luckily, I mean, it seemed like it might come back with The Mandalorian, but then Disney decided to take a dump on that too. But
The Mandalorian gets the feeling right. I mean, like,
yeah,
the first
they
season,
do for seasons 1 and 2. I think those are really good. But
and I'm interested because they're making a Mandalorian movie. I'm very interested to see.
and I'll check
how
that,
it
and I
comes
will
out.
watch that just because I liked seasons 1 and 2. I didn't like
No,
season
Bob,
3.
you're
but
not
I did
interested
like,
in it. Come on,
no. I because I liked seasons 1 and 2. I will watch it. Plus, Josh, I have a review channel. I'm going to review it. So
Let me tell you, these movies were so bad it made the prequels better. I'm going to say it.
that's the other thing. I mentioned that I liked episode 7. I thought episodes 8 and 9 were so bad that they made episode 7 a worse film. I have not watched episode 7 since The Last Jedi came out, and I just can't watch this trilogy anymore. I would no.
Yeah, luckily my son hasn't asked to watch those, so I haven't rewatched them. But I do think they would be more fun. I will say that, like, we got about halfway through Star Wars episode. Well, we got through episode 1, which took with my son probably four sessions to get through, and then about halfway through episode 2, he was bored out of his mind, and he was like, "When does Baby Yoda show up?" And I'm like, "Baby Yoda's not in any of this, my guy." and he was like, "Where is it?" I'm like, "The Mandalorian. Do you want to watch that?" And then we watched all of The Mandalorian before he ever saw the rest of episode 2.
It was very good. The first 2 seasons of Mandalorian were excellent. Trey, did you guys see it?
Mm-hmm. I saw the first 2 seasons. I didn't see the third.
I saw the third. I didn't care for it.
It has dog water.
But
terrible,
but by then we'd also had Book of Boba Fett, which sucked. We'd had Obi-Wan, which sucked. Like, they couldn't. It became abundantly clear that The Mandalorian was the only good Star Wars series. Asaka, whatever it is. I thought it was. I thought I'm gonna get you, Asaka. I thought it was all right. You know, but like The Mandalorian is like really the only good. Well, I'm sorry, Andor. What am I talking about?
No, Andor is really good.
Andor's like on another level from all the rest of the Star Wars stuff, except Rogue One, which it is kind of the spiritual successor of. Yeah. And you know, we haven't talked at all about Rogue One or Solo or any of the other ones, but like, you know, as far as like the sidecar movies go, I think Rogue One is actually excellent. I've watched
I do too. That's one of my favorite Star Wars movies. So
yeah, it's a good movie. And Andor, I loved Andor because it takes place in the Star Wars universe, but no freaking space wizards, no midichlorians. Not even a Yoda, not even a baby Yoda. Like it's for grown-ups. It's
no Ewoks.
No Ewoks. But I kind of get the feeling that you know, the guy who made it, you know, like his whole vibe was like he just wanted to make you know, a political intrigue series, and was like, we'll set. And it was the guy who wrote Rogue One, and who by some accounts redirected the third act of Rogue One after they'd already shot it.
Did.
I don't know. Gareth Edwards denies that happened, but whatever. And I think Gareth Edwards is an amazing director, actually. But anyway, and actually, I think Gareth Edwards is a good match for Star Wars. I think if you've seen The Creator,
that's a good movie. That's a really good movie.
I think Gareth Edwards is one of the best science fiction filmmakers alive, and you know, I think I'm surprised that he hasn't been brought back into Star Wars, but I wonder if he doesn't want to be in it, because it seems probably like a very political, bureaucratic headache to get your ideas through it, you know. But
this is the thing, Ben, about like Gilmore is the guy from Andor.
Gilroy.
He literally tells people, Bobby's laughing because I get names wrong all the time. He literally says, I am not a Star Wars fan, but yet you see Andor, and there's Star Wars mythology throughout the whole series. He respects it. How is it possible that somebody who says, I am not a fan, respects the fans, though? And says,
it happens. Nicholas Meyer, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. He wasn't a Star Trek fan, and he made arguably the best Star Trek film of them all.
Right.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, I don't get what people's infatuation is with J.J. Abrams. I don't think he's, you know, a great director, great writer. I don't see.
I mean, there was a decade there where he was hot shit, and that's when he got to do this. I mean, Lost was a buzzy show, and that led to him also doing Mission Impossible 3, which I would say is the best Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it was good.
And then he rejuvenated Star Trek, and
I liked Star Trek. It was a great movie.
His Star Trek was excellent. His second Star Trek,
right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It went down. Why did it go down?
Stuff goes down because people like it, and I mean, look at Iron Man to Iron Man 2, same basic team making it, and Iron Man 2 is a piece of garbage, and the first one is pure genius. What it is
first one started Marvel basically,
and they
love the original one.
Sam Raimi said why he didn't come back to do the fourth Spider-Man is that the third Spider-Man they picked a release date and then worked backwards engineered everything up to that, and he said it was like being thrown out of an airplane with a needle and thread and some silk and having to make a parachute while you're falling at full speed. That's why Spider-Man 3 is no good, and you will not find a bigger Sam Raimi fan than me. I'm Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. Why am I talking to you guys? I could be watching Army of Darkness right now.
Did you like the original Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 that he did?
I like the second one a lot. I didn't love the first one, but I'm saying it as like a fan of the Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Dark Man, The Quick and the Dead, the dark, grimy, creepy stuff.
He directed The Quick and the Dead?
Yeah,
he did.
I didn't know that. Okay, that's a great movie too.
Did you like Oz the Great and Powerful? Did you see that one?
I did not love it. I did see it. I didn't love it. But Sam Raimi, to me is an inspirational filmmaker, friend of the Coen brothers. They collaborated a lot. He second unit directed the Hudsucker Proxy. I think he's awesome. And I didn't love the first Spider-Man, but I got why he did it the way he did it. And I thought the second one was excellent. I showed that to my son maybe 6 months ago and he loved it. I would rather see him make gross, grimy horror movies because that's what I love in general and from him more. But also, I'm sure there's a whole lot more money to be made making a giant, massive hit Spider-Man movie. But anyway, I think that's the answer though. Is it's like J.J. Abrams takes a swing at the first Star Trek, does a good job because he had however long they had to write the script and kind of get everything dialed in, and then it's a hit, and they're like, hey, we want another one of these in two years. And then, a buddy of mine is a storyboard artist and he works on like giant Fast and Furious kind of movies. And he'll say that like before they have a script, they'll have a list of all the sequences that they need to make. So like, they'll come to them and say like, hey, we need to have a chase scene in Rio de Janeiro. We need to they'll basically have that. And then they tie the movie together. That was what was said about Iron Man 2, is that Jon Favreau was given a list of, here are all the big set pieces you need to make, tie them together, and so Robert Downey Jr. and him would like improv and ad-lib their way through it, and they couldn't do it. It just wasn't. I mean, they did it. It's not the worst movie of all time, but it's not on anyone's top 5 of even the MCU movies.
It's a big drop from the first to the second.
Right. And Iron Man 3 is terrible.
And Favreau jumped off that sinking ship. That was Shane Black who did the third one, I think.
That was Iron Man 3 was.
And I like Shane Black.
I love Shane Black.
Didn't he do Mission Impossible?
No.
One of the Mission Impossibles?
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which reinvented Robert Downey Jr.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah,
one of my all-time favorites. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I was not a fan. I remember when Iron Man came out, and absolutely, it's one of my top 5 movies. And I remember, Bob and I knew some stuff about him, but it was Derek who I was like, what do you know about Iron Man? And he's like, dude, he's got such a villain, the Mandarin. And we're like, oh, cool, we'll get to see him. And we finally hear the Mandarin in the third one. We're so excited. And then they pulled that garbage.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it just ruined everything for me in terms of that.
No, I mean, I think sometimes, the thing is that sometimes when they subvert your expectations, it's a delight. And sometimes when they subvert your expectations, it's a bummer. And I would say, look at Joker and Joker Folie à Deux as a perfect example of that. The first one subverts your expectations, though. Like you think you know about the Joker, and they give you a really intriguing story, and then Folie à Deux decides, I think that Todd Phillips and that whole team was like, hey, subverting expectations really worked for the audience last time. Let's do it again. Let's go further. And they took a wild swing, and they're all really skilled artisans and craftspeople and artists who made it, and it just didn't freaking work. You know, what can you say?
But like with the first Joker, Todd Phillips came out and he was like, look, this is not a comic book movie. I'm doing something different. Like, he told us about it. And we're like, okay, we'll give it a chance. And it was brilliant. And I didn't see the second one. Bobby told me not to. He said, and I was looking forward to it. And
it was better than I expected it to be, but I saw it after I'd heard that it was like the worst thing ever made. And then when I saw it, I was like, it has its merits. Like I didn't love it.
It was my worst movie of the year, and that's simply because I thought it was the most disappointing. Now, I could argue that there are actually movies that are worse made because it's a well-made film. I'm not going to argue that. I think it is a well-made film, but I just thought it was the most disappointing. So for me, it was my worst film of the year. But I mean, there are films that are probably worse made. I thought Madam Web was pretty bad. I thought Rebel Moon was pretty bad. You know, so I mean, there are other movies that are pretty bad.
Didn't you love Rebel Moon, Josh?
Huh?
Didn't you love Rebel Moon?
I did like the first one.
I liked part one, but I acknowledge it was bad. I hated part two.
Okay.
I hated part two. And because of that, I haven't gone back to rewatch part one. Well, that's not true. I did watch the director's cuts of both of them. And I don't know why I did that, because it was an extra 30 minutes of harvesting grain in slow motion. So
I just had the first one was better than Bob's like, don't go see part two. Obviously I value what he, likes, and we tend to have the same opinions. And I thought part one was okay, but he's like, don't see part two. And
was pitched as a Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
yes,
it was.
Now I know why they didn't take it.
Well, I mean, in a different way than Rian Johnson, I feel like Zack Snyder does Zack Snyder movies. He's not the guy to get to fit into somebody else's formula.
And I like Snyder. I do. I like some of his work.
I like some of his stuff. Don't like some of his stuff. Like I think he's good. Yeah.
All right. Eric, you got any final thoughts on this?
Well, okay. If I didn't think the prequels were going to match up to the first three Star Wars films, I don't know why these were going to be any different. And if you really think about it, like, I mean, we're all talking about, the stuff that we remember from the films, but is there anything really memorable that happens out of them? Excuse me. Well, okay, but other than that,
it's bad. It's not memorable. It's bad.
Well, that's what I mean. And that's why you love the first three, and you don't worry about stuff like this. Is because the first three had so many memorable things about them. This last three, I mean, other than what Ben's talking about, were okay. Yeah, art direction, fantastic. Acting, yes, good. But that's it.
Blue Milk. I remember Blue Milk.
Oh, God.
Blue Milk.
Milk in the sea moose.
I mean, Blue Milk's in episode 4. I mean, Blue Milk is part of the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
It wasn't drank as angrily though. That's
I know when he drinks it, he's like,
he really grimaced.
And he's looking at Ray like,
And apparently it was high in cholesterol.
Oh, so it's bad for your health too. Gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
Why? I have one more question. One more. Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
No, that's the only thing I was going to say is that, all right, well, nice try, I guess. eight for effort?
Oh, God. No. My question for both Trey and Ben is this. Why do you guys think that these directors want to change our expectations on something that we've grown up with? Why not just stick to what the fans love? And if you want to do something different, do a totally different, movie. Do something, create something different.
Obviously, all the fans are different. I mean, you have a completely different opinion than we do about the prequels and the sequels.
Right.
So, you can't please everybody, and you have to take a swing. And just like Ben said, like they took a swing and it missed with like the Joker 2. And I think this one was just too many cooks, and not. I think the biggest problem was what Ben already said. I'm just going to mimic you, Ben, the whole time. Is that there was no real plan, and they wanted to please the audience. They really wanted to please fans. I believe that, but they missed. You know, they didn't miss as hard as the prequels, though.
I would say that that the thing about it is when you're writing a script, you want to surprise yourself. You want to surprise the audience. Nobody watched the Empire. Nobody started watching The Empire Strikes Back thinking that Darth Vader was Luke's dad. Spoiler alert.
Right.
Right. Like that's a surprise. Now that could have blown up in their faces and sucked. That could have not worked for audiences. Ideas that strong and big often don't. It just so happened that it worked brilliantly in that case. And I think that Star Wars is full of, especially in those first 3 movies, full of big wild swings that are interesting and reveal new things about the characters and reveal new things about the nature of the universe that they've been building. But I guess I question the premise of your question, Josh, which is like, how could you write to what the audience wanted? If you saw an utterly unsurprising, predictable movie, you would walk out being like, I think you would be disappointed. Now, like if I go see a James Bond movie, I mean, I guess they get away with it once where they get to kill James Bond, right? But if I go see a James Bond movie, I expect some form of gadgetry. I expect lots of big action scenes. I expect him to, have amorous relationships with exotic women, and I expect lots of people to get killed. I expect lots of British stuff. And like if they decided to make James Bond German in the next movie, that would be like, what are you doing? I don't get it. Although in You Only Live Twice, he did put on yellow face, but that's different story. Yeah, look it up. Sean Connery with like prosthetic Japanese eyelids.
Makes sense for Sean Connery, I think.
Yeah, totally buy him as a Japanese person. But seriously, it's like, so when you think about the guardrails of the audience expectation, like if you work too hard to stay within them, then you're going to just make an utterly predictable movie and it's going to suck. And I think that's the problem of the prequels, is that nothing surprises me in the prequels. There isn't one scene in it that I'm like, ooh, didn't see that coming. I knew everything that was coming. I knew in episode 1 that Amidala and Anakin were going to get together. And it's like, that's gross. He's a child, but I knew it because I know this whole story already. And I think that the problem is that the prequels were sclerotic and ossified and stuck into this form that George Lucas had made and couldn't possibly in any way surprise you in any way ever. And the sequel series had no freaking idea where it was going. So it's just like a floppy wet noodle going this way and that. It's you've got the hose turned all the way up to the top and it's just spraying around and going crazy. And it doesn't have a story. Like that's the problem, is that it can't stick to landing because it has no target. And the first one, it's like nothing can deviate at all from what George Lucas had in his mind. And I think that, the truth is good work comes from somewhere in between those two things. And, it depends because, I won't stop telling people about The Substance. The Substance is a movie that surprised me at every turn. I had no idea what I was going in for when I went and saw it. And I was blown away. Now, I think that the filmmaker exactly knew what she was after for that movie and had a strong idea. But I also think that, like a lot of movies, they're collaborating. They're talking to the actors. They're talking to the set, to the cinematographer. They're talking to the stunt people and coming up with bigger, better fights. I think that it's never a good idea to just try and siphon out one person's idea and make something. And as another example, I would put up Robert Rodriguez, who writes, DPs, directs, edits, and scores most of his own movies. And I feel like after a while, every aspect of those movies feels kind of watered down. I think you need collaboration. And that's why people like Spielberg is as good as he is. And I think that there was the wrong kind of collaboration in both the prequels and the sequels. Now I'll shut up.
But like to go on your James Bond comparison, I want to see Luke Skywalker in the sequels being the old Jedi that we've been waiting to see for 35 years.
Josh, enough. The episode.
No, I agree though. I think you're right. I think that you want to see him become an Obi-Wan figure, which you kind of do in Book of Boba Fett when he teaches Baby Yoda or tries to teach Baby Yoda.
Right.
But that's still like Return of the Jedi era Luke Skywalker. But yeah, I agree. I think that in trying to surprise and subvert our expectations, Rian Johnson took Luke Skywalker in a weird direction that did not make the audience happy. And also, I feel like, honestly, they had one job that probably would have made so many more people happy, which is, why don't we have Luke and Leia and Han and Chewie in one freaking scene together?
One scene. That's all you have to do. We would have gotten our closure.
And C-3PO and R2-D2. But I feel like, but if you say to a real writer or a real director, you have to do this, a lot of them are going to push back on. I don't know. I've worked with enough people in this business where it's like the exact thing that the audience wants. Some people want to give them the opposite, no matter what.
Why?
And it's maybe some hipster bullshit, and it's maybe it's maybe like I don't want to say the name of it. I don't want to say any names, but I worked on a project once for that was an adaptation of a very well-known literary thing. I'll tell you all off mic. Okay. There's a famous opening line to the book, and I was one of many people working for the writer, and there was no version of that first line that writer was going to put in the movie.
Wow!
I'm like, that's what the fans want. They want to see it. They want to hear someone say it out loud. They want some representation of it. They want to understand how it's part of the story. It's like the Pavlovian bell that tells them when to drool, and he would not give it to them.
Wow. Okay. I have a feeling we'll talk off.
And the movie got made, by the way, and it was in there because I think that there was no way they weren't going to do it. But I don't know how that fight went down.
Why do you think these writers resist? Why do they not care?
They do care. They care that it be surprising and interesting, and they don't want to do the obvious, most predictable thing. I feel like that's every creative person is going to be like that. I mean, think about the first time you heard that Heath Ledger was going to play the Joker, and you're like,
right,
the pretty boy from The Patriot, sure, like right, and then he does it and blows your mind. I mean, like that was a piece of unconventional. Like the previous Joker in the movie world was Jack Nicholson, who was awesome, but that was what we all had in our minds. And then Heath Ledger comes in with this guy who actually, he's not funny, he's scary as hell. Well, he's funny too, but he's actually terrifying. And it's like that's what that's good subversion from in a narrative way, where they take an idea and do it in a way that you didn't expect it to be done. And I think that I don't think anyone's like trying to give the middle finger to the fan base. I think people want to excite the fan base and give the fan base not what they wanted, but what the story needed in a way that was surprising and interesting and delighting. And then they're going to go online and talk about it. But when you stick your neck out like that, you run the risk of pissing everybody off. And that's what happened here for Trey and myself in the prequels. And then
all the other old people.
And then like my Star Wars related nerve endings were so ablated by the prequels that I just didn't give a crap that the sequel series wasn't as good as the original, because how could it be? And the prequels had just made me skeptical that anyone could do anything with this property ever again.
That's fair.
Bob, what do you think about the writers? What Ben was saying? Do you think it's
Josh, you already know what I think. At the end of the day, I think that people are trying to make their own stamp on things. I get what you're saying, Ben, that they're taking a swing, they're putting their neck out there, and sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't. But I do think that a lot of times they want to try to make it their own. Maybe it's because it's the way that they view or what the product means to them, and they want to put their own kind of take on it. But like with Rian Johnson, I think he was trying to give us his version of what he thought. And it just didn't work out. I hated that movie, but that's what I think.
Well, I think Rian Johnson was doing Rian Johnson. I think he was the wrong choice. I think that the mistake was made when he was given the reins of that.
And he was given full reins. Like, he was the only writer, the director, everything. I mean, he full creative control on that. That goes back to what you were saying about collaboration. So All right.
Cool.
All right. Josh, are you done with all this? Have you gotten this out of your system fully now?
I could literally talk about this all night.
I know you could.
I'm about halfway done with some of my prepared points.
Oh my god.
Now, Trey, you said you had to take off, or are you gonna stick around?
I'm going to take off, but it was a pleasure, gentlemen.
You are welcome back anytime, Trey.
Anytime.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Sir.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Trey, you're the man.
Trey.
I'll see Josh
Trey,
tomorrow.
Thanks for coming and carrying the flag with me on this one.
Absolutely, Ben.
I thought I was just going to be like curb stomped by everybody on this.
No, I think we curb stopped them. Don't tell them though. All right.
Fair enough.
Hey, like I said, I can't argue with some of your points. So
no, it's fair. All right, Trey. Thank you.
All right,
man.
Bye.
have a good night.
See you, Trey. He didn't
Right.
get it. Thank God that guy's out of here. Jesus.
Who in the
Now I
hell
can
was
speak
that,
freely.
Josh, you brought on this stream here?
Exactly. All right. Finally, we can move on to the next topic. All right, Bob, if you would. Yes, indeed, folks. Well, we have managed to wrap up another show here fully on Dad's Turn to Talk.
We've only done it twice.
Exactly. Yes, it's number 2.
I know, right?
Yeah, we're moving up in the world.
What was the other one?
The Penguin.
Oh,
Yeah, we went through the whole thing.
Yep. Very, very big fans on the program.
Before you continue, Derek, let me go ahead and throw the spoiler warning out
Please
there.
do.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
I'm already sad because I haven't seen all of it, so I'm about to get it spoiled, but that's okay.
Are
Sorry.
you sure?
Yeah, I mean, like, is it really? It's fine.
What episode were you on?
I mean, like, I have seen through the end of episode 3, but after we get my son to sleep, I frequently will fall asleep myself, so I cannot guarantee that I was even awake for all 3 of all of the 3.
Bob, we fall asleep. You see, Bob busts me because I'll start watching something and I fall asleep. And he says, "How can you fall asleep? I watch everything late at night."
Josh, I'm the same age as you. I got kids as well, and you act like that.
Hold on,
can't
your
be done.
kids aren't with you now, right now.
Oh, okay, but you see, what he's leaving out there, Ben, is he's always complaining about something to watch. So it really doesn't matter. So,
Never.
The only way for me to know that I will stay awake through something is if I go see it in a movie theater. Like if I have a Regal pass and I'll go see stuff at Regal, and that will I have infrequently fallen asleep while watching a movie on the big screen, but all the freaking time I will fall asleep watching TV because getting my son to go to sleep is a perilous trial every time. And when it's over, I question all of my choices that led up to this moment in my life. And so I put on something, and if I relax even a little bit, I will fall asleep.
Yeah.
I've fallen asleep during stuff that I love. I mean, often last night I put on The Beekeeper and fell right asleep. I was asleep before the opening credits were over, and I wanted to see it. And I hear it's a big dumb pile of goofy fun, and I didn't get to any of the goofy fun because I was asleep in under 5 minutes. But also, I'm way older than all of you, so.
Hey, Josh, he has an excuse.
Yeah, that's
Come
understandable.
on, Bob. I love how you take everyone's side. Come on.
Pointing it out.
Cut Josh some slack.
Yeah.
I'm on
Josh,
the
no,
side of the sleepers.
Honestly, Josh, I get it. I tease you about it, but dude, half the time, I kid you not, I'll be sitting there on my phone, and all of a sudden, I'll look up on my phone and realize I'd fallen asleep while I'm texting.
Yes.
There's all these letters there, and I'm like, oh my god. So I get it, Josh. I just give you a hard time.
How old are your kids, Bob?
Actually, all of mine are older. My oldest, she's 24, and then I got a 22-year-old, 20-year-old, 17, and a 15-year-old. So I'm already through that.
So you're not doing bedtime,
No, thank God, no.
Yeah.
That.
No.
I would rather wrestle alligators.
Yeah.
Jesus, really?
Oh yeah,
I know.
Every night's a beatdown.
I know what Ben speaks of. I know what Ben speaks of.
Yeah. No, we're lucky. I mean, some nights it's tough. I'll admit, some nights it's tough, but Charlie's been falling asleep in our bed, and then about an hour later, I will go up and carry her to her bed.
Well, this isn't about Creature Commandos, but I'll be happy to tell you, Josh, sometime while we're waiting to pick up our kids from school, what the gauntlet of bedtime is like for my son.
Nice.
No.
Nice. It could be similar to Creature Commandos.
It used to be worse than it is. So anyway.
Oh, wow. All right. Go ahead, Jericho.
All right. So we are now done with all 7 episodes. All of them are out. All of them are completed. Ben, we are sorry for having to spoil anything for you here.
Spoil away.
Okay. All right. Very good. We are officially wrapped up with all of them, and let's just start with the host here. Josh, why don't you give us your thoughts on how you think it went down for season 1?
I loved season 1. Really, really loved it. Kind of surprising. You know, I've told all of you guys that it's a show that I didn't think I would like, and I ended up loving it. Every episode, you know, gave me my little origin story that, you know, I love. God, the violence in it, though. Jesus, some of the stuff they did, I was just like, oh my God. The finale, I liked, but it wasn't my favorite. You know, I remember Bob said, there was a cliffhanger. I didn't think there was a cliffhanger. I was waiting for something big. And the fact that we have like a newer team now, and I just feel so bad spoiling stuff for Ben, but it's, you know.
Yeah, okay, it's fine.
You know, like I really liked Nina, and they kill her.
Yeah.
Princess kills her. And I'm like, really? Did she really? She was such a favorable and popular character. And so that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. What else happened? It's so funny. I always watched it like right away. So I'm trying to go back in my mind as to the certain parts. And it was amazing about Nina because here she was who never did anything wrong. And we could say the same thing about Weasel. But she literally went to this prison because of her looks.
Yeah.
That was it. And then just, you know, have her. And I thought she was going to go crazy when they killed her dad.
Yeah.
And they didn't really show a lot with that. And then with the bride, you know, killing the princess at the very end. I was like, oh. So I don't know. It was just, I thought all the episodes were great. I liked the finale, but it wasn't my favorite by any means. So that's my opinion.
Okay. Bob.
All right. The finale was my least favorite episode of them all, but I still liked it.
Right.
Where they killed off Nina, it made me think of Guardians 3 and now Creature Commandos, and I'm worried that James Gunn is going to kill Crypto. And because good Lord. No, but this, like you pointed out, Josh, Nina actually does nothing wrong. She never did anything wrong. Throughout the show, if you watch where the other commandos are actually taking out several of the characters, Nina's running off and hiding. She's not actually involved in the fighting in a lot of this. And the way she goes out by the bride and Phosphorus convincing her to try to kill the princess, and of course it goes wrong because the Weasel tries to save the princess. And so just the way she goes out, I was kind of like, man. Earlier I was actually on another stream, and we briefly touched on Creature Commandos, and in that stream somebody had mentioned that they thought Creature Commandos was probably supposed to be a one and done. The seeing the new team was just kind of supposed to symbolize that this universe goes on, and now we're seeing James Gunn's universe fully in full swing. But I mean, I could be wrong, but either way, regardless, they're getting a season 2, so it'll be kind of fun to see some of these newer characters that are coming in. The bride overall for the show was my favorite character. I thought she was absolutely fantastic. Very well written character, very interesting. Some of the stuff she does, wow. Frankenstein was also a lot of fun. Just overall, I thought it was a fun show. The characters are fun. It kind of ends on a sad note, but I'm real interested to see where a season 2 will go. And I do understand Rick Flag is supposed to be in Superman, so I'm curious to see how that'll translate over. This, like I said, was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the future of this universe.
Okay, very good. Ben, you want to share any initial thoughts that you've had about Creature Commandos as far as the vibe of it? Anything you want to talk about?
I mean, it's so James Gunn, and it's what I love about him. And I feel like he did it with Guardians of the Galaxy, and I feel like he did it with Suicide Squad, and then Peacemaker. And he's doing, and as far as I can tell with the trailer for the new Superman movie, he's doing it, which is he looks at the comic books and the stuff that, like in 2000. How the X-Men had to be put in black leather because their actual outfits were too goofy. Like James Gunn steers into the goofiest things of every character and reminds you why they're actually kind of cool, but also allows them to be goofy. And I think a lot about in the Suicide Squad, for instance, like the bad guy who had the weird spark plugs coming out of his head, and in this one, it's all of the characters are freaking weird misfit characters. And I think maybe that's that, like imagine pitching Guardians of the Galaxy before he did it, and you've got a character that's a talking raccoon, and another character that's a tree that only says one thing. But I feel like what he does is he presents the comic book idea as it is created and doesn't try and cool it up. He just finds what's character driven and interesting within it. And so in the, I'm going to say 2.5 episodes of this that I've seen, I feel like that's what he's doing. And it's interesting how, in the Suicide Squad, Weasel is a character that's kind of a throwaway joke almost. And then they make him like kind of a bigger, not main character, but a bigger character. And
wait till you get to episode 4, because that's Weasel's backstory.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. But like all of them, like Mr. Phosphorus and stuff, like all of these characters to me feel like real comic book characters, as if they were still in the comic book. And it's maybe easier to accept it in this form because it's animated, so you can get away with a little bit more of that. But based on the Superman trailer, like he's steering right into what makes the comic book. And he did the same thing with Peacemaker, and I love Peacemaker, and I've watched his Suicide Squad probably 4 or 5 times. I think it's brilliant. And like at the end of his Suicide Squad, you've got this like Dayglow giant starfish, that is both silly looking and terrifying, destroying an island. And Creature Commandos feels like, if I have a criticism of it, it feels like it's just the Suicide Squad again in a way, but I'm okay with that. Also, it's like suddenly Frank Grillo's in everything. Where did Frank Grillo come from? I don't quite get it.
Fair enough.
Nothing against him. By the way, total side note, he was in one of my favorite movies that came out in the last few months, a movie called Werewolves. Whenever it's streaming, check it out.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
It's a big, dumb werewolf movie. It's big and dumb and full of werewolves. And that's all you need to know.
All right. That sounds like something fun.
And it stars Frank Grillo. If you'd like to watch Frank Grillo fight an army of werewolves, if that idea is enticing, then
I'm down.
Oh, I'm down. I'm down.
It's not War and Peace. You won't feel smarter when it's over. But but it is just pure fun.
Hey, we just watched Creature Commandos. I will watch.
Yeah,
I think the thing about James Gunn though is I think James Gunn gets like this. It's the stuff we were complaining about, both of us in our own ways, about the prequels and the sequels. I feel like James Gunn has a plan, and it's like I know somebody who's working on Peacemaker season 2, like a sound guy, a friend of mine. He didn't tell me very much, but he was telling me, probably stuff I could find if I looked on the internet anyway, about who was in it and stuff. And it's like, it's world building for the Superman movie, which is good. They're going to use that, and permutations of that are going to be in whatever the DC universe that he creates is. Assuming that Superman does well, and it could tank. And then this experiment's over. Yeah. I think based on the reaction people had to the trailer, I think that he at least has the goodwill of people. Like, people want it to be good and want to go see it. They want a good Superman movie because again, we were talking earlier about Zack Snyder. I like a lot of Zack Snyder stuff. I do not like his DC movies, and I really did not like Man of Steel. I feel like the pitch for Man of Steel was like, remember 9/11?
Yes.
Wasn't it awesome?
Thank you. I agree with you.
How would you like to relive 9/11 except have two people smashing the buildings around everyone? Like
Bobby loves Man of Steel.
Okay, I love Man of Steel, but I will acknowledge why it's divisive, and I get it. I completely get it. I've always said that to Josh. Don't act like Josh. I'm hating on you for hating on Man of Steel. I understand your criticism. I just happen to really like it.
Now, one thing real quick. You said about that James Gunn has like I can't think of the word. Oh my God, I just lost the plan. Thank you for this. When he first was announced and that he was going to take over DC, and he started talking about what they were doing, I called Bob up and I said, "Did you see it?" He's like, "What do you think?" I said, "You know what? He at least has a plan." And Bobby said, "You're right." We didn't know what that plan would be. And I think I even talked to Derek about it. It's a plan. Let's see where he goes with it.
It's also, like I said, it's like, I think he just has a unique take on it, which is weird to say this, but it's like his take on comic book stuff is to make it more like the comic books and less like movies. And I feel like I'm not a Zack Snyder hater at all. I like Zack Snyder, but I feel like Zack Snyder, Bryan Singer, on and on, they have tried to cool up the especially like those things, X-Men and all the DCEU stuff that Zack Snyder did. I feel like they're trying to make it cool and palatable to the cool kids. Meanwhile, I think James Gunn is like a dork who loves comic books, and he's like, "Oh, Peacemaker wears a weird hat. Well, we're gonna make it look exactly like it did in the comic book." And I feel like the Bryan Singer Peacemaker would have been like, "Hey, let's put him in a cool bodysuit and let's make him look cool." And James Gunn's inclination is, let's get John Cena, who's actually gifted with comedy, and make him be freaking hilarious, but also dangerous and scary as this character.
Yeah, I never saw him in that.
Oh, that was good. Good pun.
It's funny, Ben, that you mentioned John Cena. You can't get any more goofy than John Cena in that. Yeah, and that's why I think it works so well.
Yeah, but not only is he great, but also like he looks like an action figure. I mean, like that guy is tall and shredded and like nonstop muscle. And I feel like previous generations of Schwarzenegger, Stallone type people who would be that guy took themselves very seriously, and John Cena does not.
No, that's actually what makes the Peacemaker great. Is the fact that he is this muscle bound jock that is hilarious.
Yeah,
like.
It makes me angry because it's like, can't you just be good at one thing? Why do you got to be good at all these things?
Yeah, I don't want you to be funny.
Pick a lane.
Stay in it, dude.
No, but he's brilliant, and I think James Gunn is brilliant for casting him. And I think James Gunn, think about like Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad. I mean, that would fit right into Creature Commandos. I guess I can't think of a character from James Gunn's Suicide Squad that doesn't fit into Creature Commandos. It's a very continuous world, and I guess I wonder why they did it animated, except for it was probably a lot cheaper to do it that way.
Probably.
So I want to see some of these characters though live action. Like I just saw the actress who plays.
We've already seen a couple of them.
No, but the one who plays the bride, I think she'd look really good as.
I would not be surprised to see them turn up in the new season of Peacemaker or in the Superman movie.
Yeah, you think so? I don't know about Superman. They're so violent.
Well, we already know Rick Flag is there, so
right, but we don't know about anyone else.
Well, that's the other thing about James Gunn is the guy comes out of like trauma, and he is not afraid of super violence. Now, it looks like the Superman movie looks very PG to me. It looks like it's trying to be the old Christopher Reeve.
Yes,
it's not trying to be the Christopher Reeve movie, but it's trying to be that tone.
Yeah.
And so maybe it won't get super violent, but there is even blood in the freaking trailer, like Superman bleeding out of his mouth, which is, already like, what, how?
Yeah, is he fighting Doomsday? Like that was one of our.
I think Superman is going to be a safe PG-13. It's not going to go the R route.
No,
you're not going to make an R-rated Superman movie because nobody wants. Not going to work. Nobody wants an R-rated Superman movie, but
Exactly.
maybe me. But most people want an R-rated Superman.
James Gunn knows when to push his limits and when not to. He's not going to push limits with that. And that's smart because that's what people want.
I mean, like in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, he doesn't go R-rated.
No.
But in the Suicide Squad, he definitely does, and it's awesome. And I feel like he's allowed to have range as a filmmaker. But I feel like he's someone who really has his hand on the till, and it's really his storytelling. Love it or hate it. To me, I think it's a lot more appealing to me than Zack Snyder's version of that same material. Although, I love Zack Snyder's Watchmen, so whatever.
Yeah.
Derek, what'd you think of it?
So, okay. In terms of all the episodes, this one is the least action oriented. All the others are great. Oh,
did we just lose Ben?
Ben? That's all right. Maybe he'll join us back here in a minute.
Okay.
So it's the least action oriented out of all the other episodes. It is, to me, also one of the best written. Now, here's why I say that is because I was doing a little bit of kind of like a retrospective on all of the episodes as a whole. The last episode, while it is the least action oriented and also one of the lesser violent ones, it's violent, but it's less violent than the others. And I love all the others too. Don't get it twisted. It's also the most Shakespearean. It's the one where you finally come to realize why these are heroes and why they are actually good guys and why you root for them.
Right.
Every single one of them has cared for someone or a couple of people, like a group of people very deeply. That same group of people has had something, or the one that they've loved has had a horrific death. They've lost somebody in terrible, terrible ways.
God.
And as a result of that, they have turned into the monsters that they are.
Yep.
But you understand why they're the monsters that they are. And the reason that I love this final episode so well is because the bride shows you at the end that at the end of the day, all they have now is each other. That's it. There's nothing else that they have except themselves as a gang and a team.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it took the nicest one of that team dying for Anna to realize that not Anna, for the bride to realize that was her friend. And that's why it's tragically beautiful. Now, I'm a sucker for stuff like that, but that's also me. I get how it's not.
Very good take on it.
Yeah, so that's for me. Oh, there he is.
Sorry.
What happened?
A long story, but I had to swap out the battery in my webcam.
Oh, okay.
No, I got you. All right. I won't repeat my point.
I was there for all but 10 seconds of it.
It's okay. Right, thank you. But that's why I loved it. And to see what happens with season 2 will also be very fun. I did feel like Ben did. I mentioned this actually when we started watching it, Ben, that it was almost too much to me like Suicide Squad. I was like, oh, it's feeling like we're doing a little cut and paste here. But it did end up having its own flavor and its own take too at the end of it. So I'm a big fan. Can't wait for season 2. I'm looking
forward. I did not like. I like the first Suicide Squad a little bit more than the James Gunn one. However, I kind of want to go back and rewatch it now that I've seen Creature Commandos and see if I like it better. And I also want to actually get into. I never watched Peacemaker, so I really think I want to.
Oh my God, Peacemaker's freaking
Peacemaker's fun.
Yeah, gotta go watch that.
So I think I definitely want to give.
Just watch the opening credits of Peacemaker on YouTube. You don't even need to watch an episode of it. Just watch the opening credits, and you'll be like, "I need to see that." But I don't know. I saw Suicide Squad, the David Ayer one, in the theater, and halfway through, I'm like, "How did they screw this up so bad?"
I know. Yes.
It was like this is the Dirty Dozen with supervillains. How do you get it this wrong? It just did not work. And also,
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto's Joker, again, wild swing. Don't agree with it. Didn't work for me.
Yeah.
No.
But also apparently, according to Jared Leto, there's a whole movie's worth of stuff that he did that didn't make it into the cut, which to me is write your goddamn script. Write a script and have your idea in place instead of making a 3.5 hour Suicide Squad movie and then trimming it down to 2 hours and throwing out an hour and a half of stuff. Because, you know, I mean, the Joker is, before that movie came out, the Joker is the character most of us wanted to see more than anything. But, you know, I think the James Gunn one felt like it really knew what it was and what it was trying to be. And he's got a real handle on tone when he goes after it. And I think, I don't know, there's a lot to like about him. And I mean, David Ayer wrote Training Day, I think one of the best movies of the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, he's not bad. He's a good filmmaker. I just did not care for his Suicide Squad.
Fair.
Got it.
All fair takes. All right. Well, I think we're looking forward to the next season. We did watch this one all the way through, thank goodness. I look forward to the next show we're actually going to watch all the way through. Who knows what that may be?
We don't know yet.
Yeah, we're not sure. But we're looking forward to it either way. Anything else to say about Creature Commandos, gents?
I don't got anything else. A lot of fun.
Very good.
Very good. Yep. All right, Bob, get on with whatever this says. Go ahead.
All right. All right, Ben, you got to give us just a couple minutes here.
I'm going to just take a nap here. I'll just nap while you guys talk sports.
There's that.
Hey, we're not actually talking sports. We are talking our own fantasy football league that we have here, and we're just going to recap real quick from this past week. For those that joined us the previous week, just a reminder, I set a new high score, and I did put it on Josh and
You bunch of losers!
However, a lot changed in a week, and Josh, I can say you really put it on us.
The champ is here.
All right, so let's just go ahead and get into the
beautiful
recap. Derek.
Oh, poor Derek.
I think this is the new low score for the year.
Oh, did you
I think you broke your previous record. So you went with Josh Allen. Yeah, 25.48 points from him. Went with Bucky Irving, 16.3. You went back to Taylor from Houston again, 0 points. Puka Nacua, 10.1. AJ Brown, 2 points. Davis from the Chargers, 1.1. Mark Andrews, 5.2. Chris Rodriguez, 0 points. The Ravens defense, 5 points. Your total score was 65.18. Final verdict?
Wabbit season. Duck season. Fire.
Oh, what?
Didn't go too well for you, Derek.
Yeah.
I can't say it didn't go much better for me either. I went with Jaden Daniels at 22.32 points. Bucky Irving, 16.3. Jalen Warren, 6.5. McMillan, 6.1. Zacchaeus from Washington, 4.9. Rashad Bateman, 10.4. Zach Ertz, 4.3. Puka Nacua, again, 10.10. I also went with the Ravens defense at 5 points. My total score was 85.92 points. Final verdict?
Let's go, handsome. Come on. Not you, fat Jesus. Slide it on back.
Yeah.
That's so good.
And I hate to say this, but let's get to our champ for the week.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Josh, good job. You went with Lamar Jackson, 23.1. Derrick Henry really did a good job for you. 33.6 points. Mixon, you got lucky with because he got all those points at the end, but he still got them, so that's all that matters. 20.9. McLaurin, 21.9. I thought he was a great play. Jamison Crowder, 0 points. Matt Collins, 2.9. Mark Andrews, 5.2. Again, Bateman, 10.4. You also really got a good one with the defense. 24 points with the Texans. Your total score was 142. Final verdict? Oh, Josh, Right now, going into our final 2 weeks of the season, you have 8 wins. Only one of us can catch you because if you win this week, Josh, you have won the whole thing. If one of us goes back to back, then we get to a tiebreaker. But either Derek or myself, one of us is going to be in last place. Josh, the worst you could do would be second. So that is our fantasy recap for the week.
Ben's director from Blair Witch called me today, and they want to do a movie about me. You know,
Just, it's not true. Don't say it. Don't ever mimic that again. Don't insult them like that.
About being a champion, Ben, you should feel honored that you put the champion right now. I apologize that these two are losers.
I just want to point out, Josh, that when Buford was bowing to everybody and laughing, nobody cared.
No.
Yeah, you could say that, Bob.
While you guys were talking sports ball, I was just watching the Peacemaker opening theme credits.
There you go.
Love you,
Smart
too,
move.
Hey, that is a great opening. That's a lot of fun.
Oh, God. All right.
All right.
All right. Well, let's move on to the final topic of the evening. Bob, this is your moment. So take it away. That's a good one.
That's good. Good for you.
There we go. So
very good.
We're gonna
well
talk.
done, sir.
There we go.
making the epic happen. All right, folks. We're here to talk Dad's action movies. Josh finally graced us with his presence when it came to his selection. How nice of him. Stop that. No.
You little dance. Come on.
No. No one's doing a dance. No one's doing any of that. Okay? Thank you. All right. So we're going to finally talk about Josh's movie that he only took, what was that, 2 months to share?
No, not at all.
Yes, it did. Yes, you did.
Much
about a
better
month.
than Big Trouble in Little China.
It took him a month and a half to watch
Josh,
Big
you mean
Trouble in Little
this?
China.
You mean that?
Oh, there you go.
I
You're going to
see.
make Ben very
It took
happy.
him a
now.
month and a half to watch that one, and then another month to choose RoboCop.
It's
So
going to take me 5 months to watch
I
it.
specifically dug this up so I could show it to you.
Oh, I'm good. So
All
glad.
you had to do was ask me to borrow it, Josh, and I would have given it.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes, I would have.
First of all, you would have charged me triple.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
probably done that, but-
Charge your friends a rental on movies.
Oh,
Oh,
of course.
Josh, yes. Everybody
Yeah.
else, no. I wouldn't
Yes.
have done that.
Straight me, absolutely. Absolutely.
you got to forgive us, Ben. We're like 3 brothers here.
Yeah,
We're
we-
constantly going at each other.
It's been a dynamic
Fair enough.
You would, yeah.
since we started this thing. But
Let's
we
just
are
say,
here.
Ben, let's just say this. Visiting Derico in San Francisco one time, a waiter busted me on something, and Derek went ahead and doubled the guy's tip. That's the friendship.
Wow.
Well, okay, Josh, you didn't tell him the fact that you were trying to insult me, and then the waiter caught you on it, and that's why I doubled the tip.
Doesn't matter. Doubled the tip.
All right. Anyway, we're going to finally talk about Josh's selection for Dad's action movies.
Which Josh was a great selection.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
mean,
Great
it doesn't get
selection.
any better than RoboCop, folks, and that's what we're.
Is it a dad movie now? Is that where we're at?
It's
Oh,
no, but we named this section "Dad's Action Movies" to talk about action movies that we as dads like.
That's fair.
And, yeah, RoboCop hit the list.
Because like
Yeah.
there's a kind of movie that's like a dad movie, and I've started to realize that like if you're a fan of say Michael Mann's Heat, you're
point.
probably not Gen Z.
That's
no.
fair.
What are we?
It's a fine movie, but like and I just I don't quite exactly know where the line is because to me RoboCop is as punk rock as it gets, and
Yeah.
and I would love to see. I'd love to. I feel like if you showed it to a person of any age who had a certain kind of like that kind of vibe that they would respond positively to it. Like I think it holds up. I've watched it recently.
It definitely holds up.
Punk rock is the exact way to phrase that. That's exactly what this movie is.
Yeah.
And it does still hold up 120%. Directed by Peter
Paul.
Paul,
Paul Verhoeven.
excuse me. Thank you. Yes. Hey, do you pronounce it Verhoeven? Am I getting that right?
I've always heard Verhoeven, but yeah.
Verhoeven? Okay.
By the way, Ben, that documentary is on Apple TV and on Amazon.
Yeah, it's also
very good.
it's on Tubi. It's called RoboDoc.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
And it's all about the making of RoboCop, and they talk to everyone who's still alive who had anything to do with it.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it.
Peter Weller is all over it. It's fun to watch Peter Weller, because I always think of Peter Weller as an actor who took himself very seriously, and he reveals himself to not be that in this.
Really?
Very good.
Yeah, he seems like, if you watch it, you'll be like, oh, I'd love to go hang out with Peter Weller. He seems very fun.
Nice. Okay. And if you're familiar, I didn't know this about Paul Verhoeven. Hopefully, I'm getting that right. I don't know, but he is the director of Total Recall. If you guys remember that one,
And Basic Instinct and
Starship Troopers. Yeah.
And you guys beat me to the punch entirely. Never mind. I was going to say all those, but fantastic,
good ones.
Fantastic resume, man. I mean, that's top-notch stuff right there.
He's got some good ones, and also Showgirls, which I refuse to join the cult. The revisionist cult of Showgirls is actually good. I refuse. It's not good. It's a bad film, but
It's
that's
bad, but it's great.
I agree with half of that statement.
Let me tell you, when you're a teenager, it's great.
Yeah,
I was a teenager and I thought it was bad then too.
Josh, just maybe
I give up.
Okay,
I give up.
I was in my very early 20s when that came out, and I was like, what? And like, you know, like I was at a point where like I would forgive Basic Instinct, and I feel like if you watch Basic Instinct today, it does not hold up. But like Basic Instinct is Vertigo compared to Showgirls. Showgirls is ridiculous.
Having said that, July 17th, 1987 is when this came out. All right, you want to take this is fun. Do you want to take a stab at the budget for what this was?
Jesus,
I want to say it wasn't that high because it was the 80s.
I'm going to say
oh good. I'm going to say maybe 20 million, 30 million.
Going to say 25 million.
I was going to say 10.
Ben gets the win, 13.7 million.
Wow. Okay.
My Price is Right rules, you know.
Yeah.
There we go. And then the box office for this was actually 53.4 million.
I mean, that's a giant win on a $13 million film. You know?
Yeah. Well, especially for 1987. Who knows if we kick inflation?
Especially for an R-rated film too.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
This was rated R in every which way, folks.
Oh,
in all the best ways, really. So that's some fun stuff about just some of the business points there. Of course, we already talked about just a couple members of the cast there. That's Peter Weller as Alex Murphy, RoboCop himself. How could we forget? Nancy Allen as Ann Lewis, the loyal police officer. Daniel O'Harley, am I pronouncing that right? I can't remember. As the old man, the chief executive of OCP. You got Ronnie Cox as Dick Jones, the senior president of OCP. You've got the brilliant Kurtwood Smith as Clarence Boddicker, the main antagonist of the film. And finally, Miguel Ferrer as Bob Morton, who's one of the junior executives of OCP. So, gents, fantastic all around. I know we all believe that. Josh, you picked this. You kick us off.
Oh, I love this movie. I remember the first time probably I saw it. I think I've said this story before. My mother took me to see RoboCop 2 in the theaters. I just the other day, and she was like, "Did I?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh yeah, it was good."
Hey, you know who directed RoboCop 2?
Who was it?
Irvin Kershner, who directed The Empire Strikes Back.
He did?
Yeah, and it was written by Frank Miller.
Really? The one who did Batman, the one who did Batman Year One?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I want to go back and watch it. They don't have it.
It's not good. It's really bad, and it's so violent that it actually it turned me off whenever it came out. Like I was the exact age of the person who would want to see that movie. I was, probably 18 or something.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it and just being like, I was just like, like this is just like so gratuitous that the violence lost meaning. It was just like, in the first RoboCop, the violence is very personal. And in the
Yes.
second one, it was like the old saying of one death is a tragedy and a million deaths is a statistic. That's how it felt in RoboCop 2. It was like so much death that after a while it's like I'm just numb. It's nihilistic. Nothing means anything. What is life? Thoughts you don't want a 19-year-old to have. Anyway.
Got it.
Got it. Yeah, no. So, God, those villains, they were lethal. They were such jerks.
Mhm.
And like, I saw the director's cut, and it was funny because I was telling Bob this earlier.
Wait, there's a director's cut of RoboCop or RoboCop
Yeah.
2?
No, RoboCop.
It's got like a few extra minutes of blood in it. That's all it is. It's not like extra scenes or anything. It's just a little more gratuitous on the violence.
I'll take it.
Yeah. And it just because I told Bob, for some reason I thought originally, and Derek, I didn't even talk to you about this. I thought they had blown his what off in the movie, and it was somebody else that they did. But God, I had forgotten how they like blew his arm off.
Yeah.
And God, it was just so crazy, but still it just was, you could feel for him. And then it's funny because he had the memories when he became RoboCop, of his family and the way he took guys down. And I said, oh God, I still remember when the acid falls on the guy and he's like just droopy. And I told the guys earlier, Ben, that they actually made a toy of that.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that crazy? And what else? It holds up. And it's fast. Like I turned it on. It's funny. I turned it on like a week ago. I'm like, okay, it's late, getting tired. And I said, maybe I'll watch 30 minutes tonight. And then, gradually. I pretty much almost watched the whole thing that night, except like 40 minutes I had left. And I was like, oh, it's moving really fast. I love the part at the end when RoboCop tells what's her name, his partner, don't worry, they fix everyone. It was just a funny comment, and I just loved it. And I just remember what jerks those guys are. I mean, the dad from that 70s show, biggest jerk in the world, was like blowing him away. And God, even at the beginning when the other robot, Bobby and I were talking about it, how he shoots, that executive, and everyone's just sitting there. They don't know what to think. The guy's like,
and like the Ed 209 or whatever it is, was animated, stop motion animated by Phil Tippett, the legendary Phil Tippett, who did like the Imperial Walkers in The Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, Phil Tippett's like a legend in the stop motion world. And the makeup effects were done by Rob Bottin, who did like most famously The Thing, but he also did the transformations in The Howling. He went on to work with him in Total Recall. He did all the practical makeup effects in Total Recall. So he did Kawato and all that stuff. But Rob Bottin's a freaking legend, and he designed the RoboCop suit. And he's like the J.D. Salinger of makeup effects guys. He's completely disappeared. Nobody knows where he is. He got out of the business. Like his last credit was, I think, an episode of Game of Thrones like 15 years ago or something.
Wow.
Oh, man.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he did Fight Club. Like, yeah, but it was like he was a rock star in like the early 80s through the 90s. He was doing stuff like doing the thing. And he was like 21 years old when he did all the monster effects in The Thing. Like that's, the stuff of legends. And RoboCop was, yet another legendary thing that he done. But yeah, between like him and Phil Tippett and like all the people, like I'm sure that they all lowered their rates to work on this because it was so freaking cool. And it was Paul Verhoeven's first American movie. He'd done, a bunch of movies in I forget, Denmark or something.
Right.
Yeah. And doing that satire, and it just, oh my God, just the way it,
Pitch Perfect.
Great. Yeah. It was great. So I loved it.
All right. Bob, take it away, sir.
So the thing about RoboCop is that it's magic. There's a reason why RoboCop 2, RoboCop 3, the television shows, some of these others, they've never been able to recapture this. The remake, yes. None of them have been able to recapture that. What RoboCop is, it's more than just this robot that's going around blowing people away. There's actual themes and ideas and stuff like that here. So for example, you're dealing with this idea of this greedy corporation and and what exactly they can do. And like, for example, they mention or Bob Morton mentions that they've moved specific police officers that fit their profile to be Robocop, and they put them in precincts where they were most likely to be killed.
I did not know
And
that.
at the beginning of the movie, Alex Murphy is being transferred to that particular precinct. He was a candidate for it. I mean, they basically murdered him without actually pulling the trigger. They put him there because they knew he was going to die. And then through the rest of it, they're like, oh, he's just property. We can do whatever we want with it. And so they're this greedy corporation and how much power they have and all this stuff. This is an idea that's being touched on. And you've got, like you, Josh, you mentioned the scene where Ed 209 blows that guy away. The old man's just sitting there and he's like, Dick, I'm really disappointed. This is going to cost us millions of dollars in insurance money. They got this corpse sitting right over there. And that's what they're worried about. They're worried about the insurance payments. And so I thought that was really interesting. And then this whole idea of how much humanity Murphy has left, that's really touched on throughout the movie. There's a reason why the scene where he dies is so violent, because Paul Verhoeven wanted the audience to see his humanity being ripped away. And we see that happen. And so there's a lot of questions as to how much of Murphy is there. Is he just a robot that has these memories because he's programmed that way? Is Murphy still in there? And I think that he is, because one specific scene is when he goes back to his home. And as he's walking through the home, you see the kind of pixelation and everything as he's looking. But when the memories come through, they're nice and clear. I mean, he's remembering. It's his humanity reasserting itself. And so I just found this movie just very fascinating, not just from an action standpoint, but there's a lot of themes and ideas and stuff that are touched on here. And that's why this movie is magic. It's a lot of fun. And it's got some heart to it, despite all the violence and stuff that connects with people. That it's a magical movie, and like I said, there's a reason why they've never been able to recreate it.
Well said, Bob. Nice job there.
Yeah, I'd say even Paul Verhoeven hasn't been able to recreate it. Like when he made Starship Troopers, it felt like he was trying to make a lot of the same kinds of points, and it's definitely satire, but it doesn't. It falls flatter, in my opinion.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, I love Starship Troopers, but it's not RoboCop.
It's good. No. Yeah,
Dan,
it's
the floor is yours. Yeah, go for it. By the way, but take it away. Yeah.
What? Sorry.
Oh, the floor is yours if you want to keep talking about RoboCop. You're up next.
I feel like I've said everything that I needed to say about it. I mean, like I watched that RoboDoc when it came out. I don't know, maybe 6-8 months ago, and it made me rewatch the movie again, and maybe for all I know, I might have watched the director's cut. You know, as a teenager, I was one of those kids on the school bus reading Fangoria magazine, and RoboCop was extensively covered there. And in fact, I mean, you know, I haven't really grown up like.
Oh my gosh! Oh, that's a good movie too.
Loved it.
Nice.
So, but I've got a bunch of Fangos right here. But it was a movie that I was like really excited to see, and I was just, 1987. I would have been 14.
Yeah.
Like I was the right age to want to see it, and maybe a little too young to really see it. But I think I don't even remember how I got to see it. I think I talked my dad into taking me to see it, and my dad was always down for violent action movies, so it wasn't a big deal. My dad hated horror movies, but I feel like this movie kind of walks that line, like when that guy melts.
Yeah.
That's a horror movie moment. There's a lot of horror movie moments when they kill McMurphy. Sorry. It's very, especially like I remember that shot of like his hand just blowing up.
Yeah.
And it definitely like leans in, and I guess that's when I call it punk rock. I mean, it's like it's trying to get your attention. And even like kind of the throwaway jokes, like the I'd buy that for $1 guy, like it kind of points to a world that feels simultaneously familiar and alien, like, oh yeah, that's what commercials are like, or that's what weird personalities on TV are like. They're like weird old men that you don't understand saying catchphrases that don't make sense and everyone laughing at it. And I don't know if some of that was Paul Verhoeven. I think he was Dutch. Is Dutch. He's still alive. I think he's Dutch. But I think that was maybe partly him coming to our country and kind of like criticizing our culture a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you know, to me, it's like, it's a flawless movie. I wouldn't change a thing about it. Looks great performances, everything is pitched exactly the way it's supposed to be. You know, like, I think that today you would, if you were making that story for the first time, you wouldn't have like the cackling bad guys. They wouldn't be taking all this glee in everything they're doing. They would probably try and make it more grounded and naturalistic. I mean, even just a few years later, not even 10 years later, you've got movies like The Crow, where there's this kind of a similar cadre of evil doing bad guys, but they're more believable as people. I don't believe anyone is a person in this movie. But that's okay. Like, it's all this kind of wild swing about theme, and it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of an anti-capitalist statement. You know, it's like this big corporation doing horrible things and getting away with it, and it's kind of saying that's what they do, and then at the end they don't. You know, and that's kind of what's, I don't know. It feels like one of those. It's not Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but it has a similar theme in a weird way.
Derek, what do you think?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start off with some early memories I had of RoboCop, and this is before I actually even saw it. I remember the toys. I remember the video game. I remember
there were toys in a video game for an R-rated movie. Let that sink in a little bit. Like,
okay, exactly my point. Exactly my point. I remember
an animated series.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember the gun coming out of the leg. I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Yes.
And I remember all of these things, and I'm like, I've never seen it, and I was like, probably like 9 at the time, maybe 10. And I remember asking my mom, I'm like, Mom, you know, this is a big deal, and everybody's talking about it, and you know, my friends think it's so cool. I'd like to go see it this weekend. And my mom goes, you are not seeing that this weekend or anytime soon. And I'm like,
it's like a guarantee that that's the only thing you're going to want to ever see. Like, when your parents are like, you are not doing that.
Yeah. And then I thought that was atrocious behavior. I thought my parents were evil. And I tried to do everything I could in order to see it. And I finally did, but it was about 2 years later. And I realized at that point why I wasn't allowed to see it. Because it starts off violent and it stays that way.
Never
the entire way through. Yep. Ed just brutally like puts his bullets into this guy's back, like right in the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And then you watch Peter Weller. You're right, Bob. His humanity gets ripped away from him. And it's not like it takes a couple of seconds. It drags on and you feel pain. Like, just watching it is an emotional experience. And the whole time you're just like, oh my God, this guy has to get his revenge. If he doesn't get his revenge, then none of this matters. But ultimately, that's half of the fun of it, is you realize he becomes something completely different. And what does that look like for him? And that's when all the fun stuff that you talked about surfaces in. Does he have memories? Does he not? Is the experiment gonna work, or will it not? You don't really know.
No.
And not to mention the corporation and, you know, the themes of what is crime really at the end of the day, because what the corporation is doing is evil and horrible, and you think that's illegal, but it's not. But yeah, you have a guy who is completely criminal in all the worst ways too. And it's almost like RoboCop is taking on 2 different forms of crime in his own way.
100%.
Yeah, that's exactly why Bob, to your point, that's one of the themes I noticed throughout all of it.
And to tack on to that, Clarence Boddicker's working for Dick Jones.
There you go.
OCP. So it's like you got these 2 evils, and they are working together.
Mm-hmm. And then by the end of it, you realize that there has to be an element of humanity within RoboCop, because that's what makes him the hero. That's why that hero works. Is because he's this cold badass robot that is justice at the end of the day, but the only way that he becomes that is if there's a heart of a human behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And you take it and you take that by the end of it. And that's what makes him such a cool hero to me, is the fact that for as much cyborg as he is, there's a heart with him.
Right.
And I could think of no more romantic punk rock than that. Like, that's badass. I love it.
I
And
couldn't
so-
believe he was still alive. I had forgotten
Yeah.
that he was like barely alive
Yeah.
after the bullet in the head.
But I think that's important because if you go to RoboCop 2, which, like you said, Ben, I mean, it's a bad movie, but you go to RoboCop 2, they try to recreate the RoboCop experiment with other people, and it just didn't work. There was something in Murphy that wanted to live. There was, and it was that fight in him, I think, that allowed him to get through that process.
Yeah. It can't be about what you fight against. It's also about what you fight for. That's what makes that hero great.
Yeah.
And have you guys watched Buckaroo Banzai?
No, I haven't seen it.
I've never known.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well,
Write this one down.
I've got like
I bet Josh, I bet you're gonna hate it just as much as you hated Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh,
It's odd, and it stars Peter Weller, and it's got a great cast. It's like Peter Weller, Jeff Goldblum, and John Lithgow, like just an amazing cast. But
oh God, I want to see it because
it is off the rails, bonkers weird. It's so weird. Actually, you'll super hate it. It's directed by the guy who wrote Big Trouble in Little China, W.D. Richter.
Oh God, what's it called?
It's called The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Fifth Dimension.
Oh my God, where do you? God.
I've gotten like 5 suggestions from Ben today. I've got a lot of homework to do.
The Adventure.
I'll completely demolish all of your free time.
Sounds good to me.
One more time.
I believe it's Across the Fifth Dimension. I think you'll hate it, Josh. I think you'll hate it. If you didn't like Big Trouble in Little China, I don't think you're going to like this movie. But it's Peter Weller. It's around the same time. I think it maybe is a year before, maybe 2 years. I think it's 1985, 1986-ish. And he plays also Ellen Barkin in her prime. And Peter Weller plays a guy who's like an astrophysicist and a surgeon and also a rock star.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Excellent. I can't wait. Oh gosh, this is going to be fun.
It is weird.
Check that one out.
I'm for it.
Across the 8th dimension.
8th dimension. Sorry, my bad.
Oh my God, where did you? God.
Oh, Josh, you haven't scratched the surface of the weird ass movies that I have seen. But
Oh my God,
I mean, this was a giant release that they expected to be a big hit. So much so that at the end it teases, look forward to Buckaroo Banzai against the World Crime League, and of course that never got made. So far, I don't see it. I don't see it getting made.
Oh, this is a
Come
great
on, you
cast.
gotta have faith. Give it time.
This is a great cast.
It's super weird, guys. But you should watch that as maybe one of your dad movies.
I'm game for it.
I am. I'm actually.
It's weird, and you all might hate it and curse my name for recommending it. Again,
Well,
like
I do that anyway, so it doesn't matter.
to me, like Big Trouble in Little China is a movie that is beyond one's ability to dislike, and you managed. So
Yeah,
Christopher Lloyd.
it's Josh's fault.
You know what, Derek? Shut up.
you like what you like. I'm not here to police what anyone likes. I just think if you don't like Big Trouble in Little China, but you will find Buckaroo Banzai extremely odd.
But the cast, though, like
That's a
this
good cast.
is amazing.
Christopher Lloyd, Clancy Brown, Peter Weller, John Lithgow.
Yakov Smirnoff. Not joking.
Oh,
I can't wait. This is gonna be fun.
We got to check that one
Yeah.
out.
I think it's on two.
And the closing credits were filmed at the Sepulveda Dam.
Oh, it was. Oh,
Yeah,
my
it's like all of them just kind of walk. And yeah, Jeff Goldblum plays like a weird cowboy character. They all have oddball characters. It's like it's based on a comic book that never existed. I do think they did make a Buckaroo Banzai comic book after the fact. but-
That's so good. I can't wait.
Oh, he's funny. Oh,
Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack everything, but I just
No.
feel like
No.
if you're a fan of RoboCop and Peter Weller, like it, like
Oh.
to me, Peter Weller around that time was taking super oddball roles, and he was enough of a movie star to carry them.
Yeah.
And this is before, like, then later on he did movies like The New Age or David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch, which I love, but not exactly catnip for most audiences.
I saw Naked Lunch when I was like a senior in high school. It's been forever and a day since I saw
Man, I dragged everybody in my film program to go see it, and I was the only one who liked it.
Have you guys seen that movie, Bob or Josh?
No,
I haven't seen it.
Okay, Josh, you will hate that movie. That
I have it on DVD, and you're welcome to borrow it anytime. But it's also probably streaming in 500 places.
Oh my god!
I mean, it's based on an unadaptable William S. Burroughs book, so like it's Cronenberg, man.
Yeah, it's
out
like, there, but
it's peak Cronenberg.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I don't think we can praise the good name of Robocop enough. And you're right, Bob. To your point, 2, 3, the remake, it doesn't get back to it. It just doesn't. It goes reaching for it, can't find it. You can't recapture that. It's just a timeless one for the ages.
It's as if that's the theme of this episode.
Yes.
Can't recapture the magic of the original.
Yeah. No. Do the original thing and then let it go.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Don't mess with something if it isn't broke. Come on, man. Leave it alone. Let it be magic.
There we go.
All right. Well, having said that, we have been talking for quite some time, but gentlemen, this episode has been a blast, even though like half of it was spent on something we didn't need to discuss, Josh.
You know what, I had to get Ben on here. We started talking. It was right before his son ran into his arms and kneed him in the balls.
Oh, it was great.
Fell over yelling in front of all these kids. My balls. The principal was there. Everybody was there.
I was in a shocking amount of pain at that moment. My son hasn't realized that when he runs and jumps into your arms that he shouldn't extend his knees fully out towards you.
Oh, but and now, I watched him.
But now when he does it, I just know to like reach forward and pick him up so that like I can't take it right in the nuts.
But I think he's aware of it though.
Maybe he thinks it's funny, but I mean, getting hit in the nuts is funny, just not when it happens to you.
I know it has to happen to somebody else.
But yeah, and he was like, we started talking about Star Wars, and I'm like, okay, you're coming on. We got to discuss this, and yeah.
And we were supposed to do it like a month ago, but I had unexpected tickets to go see a play.
No, we appreciate you coming on, Ben. It's always a blast when you're on here. So
awesome. You're the best, Ben. We love you.
Man,
I learned a lot just by listening to you. So
well, thanks for having me on. Well, I want a full report from everybody about Buckaroo Banzai.
There we go.
No, we'll bring you on.
I'm looking forward to it.
I want to watch.
Next time he comes on, we gotta do it. Let's get the review going with him. Let's get the review going with him.
Download Tubi. I just saw.
It doesn't surprise me. I think it's streaming all over the freaking place.
Tubi, Pluto TV, Prime, but you have to pay for it. Sling, you have to pay for it. YouTube, I believe you have to pay for it. Yeah, but you can.
TV and Tubi you can get for free, I think.
Yeah. Tubi's ad supported. You don't even need to sign up for anything. You can just download it.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think I'm going to do that. Put it on my iPad. I want to watch it.
Oh my god, Tubi's amazing. Tubi's the best. Tubi's like one of the best services. It's like going to a weird old video store in 1995, and all these random titles are just everywhere. It's such a motley arrangement of movies. I love Tubi. It's usually the first thing I turn on.
It's like I ran into Meteor Man. If you
oh my god!
Wow!
I know you got See,
1994. 1994.
Long. Yeah, I mean it was a while since I've seen it. But
is that Damon Wayans or one of the Wayanses?
It was Robert Townsend. Yes, who?
Robert Townsend. Oh my God, I'm a horrible person.
No, it's okay. It's all right. It's okay.
Oh my God. I love Robert Townsend. I think I like the Hollywood Shuffle is brilliant.
That's. I've heard I heard somebody say that it's a pretty famous director too. Oh, Kevin Smith. He said the reason I became a director is because I saw Hollywood Shuffle.
Well, Hollywood Shuffle was Robert Townsend famously put that all on credit cards.
Yes, that was the movie. Yep.
Oh,
He mentioned that exact point. So that's another one we got to check out. I'm going to write that down now too. There we are. Got to rewatch that one. Oh, we got a lot of good stuff tonight. That's excellent.
There we go.
Awesome.
All right.
Oh, God.
Well, with
Well,
that,
start with Naked Lunch, definitely.
start.
I don't know that you guys will like that. I love it, but I don't know that it's your thing.
No,
gotta look that one up.
if you're into real out there stuff, you're gonna want to see Naked Lunch. That's true.
Yeah, I love Cronenberg. So
I get it. But Buckaroo Banzai sounds like the one we should probably all check out first and invite Ben on for the review.
yeah, I mean, it might be the three of you cursing my name for even suggesting it because it's so out there. I love it, but it's out there.
We're gonna give it a try. I
What
think.
is Naked?
There we go.
Yep. Now Josh is researching it.
I know.
Why did it take me to an adult side? Just kidding.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's Josh. You just because you saw Pornhub doesn't mean you click it. Okay.
I don't actually think there's any nudity in Naked Lunch. I think it might be
There
like
is.
the
No.
only Cronenberg movie that has no nudity.
Oh
I
my
know.
God. This
He decided to just put the naked in the title, and that was where
Yeah.
he left it. All right.
Is
Well-
Naked Lunch 1991 the craziest film you have seen? Someone
It's
Me?
No, that's what.
Oh.
Not.
Not hardly. Oh my god.
Oh my God, I've seen it
It's-
all. All right.
It's pretty wacky, but I could name 10 movies off the top of my head that are way more out there than Naked Lunch. Oh my god.
Oh my God.
Give it a
Alright.
try.
Yep. Let's wrap it up for the evening, gents. We've got a good stretch here. Ben, social media wise, tell us where you're at, where we can find you.
Well, I'm still on Twitter at Neptune Salad, but I've been mostly on Blue Sky, also at Neptune Salad, and you can find me on Instagram. And I signed up with Benjamin_Rock because I didn't really think Instagram was going to catch on back in the day, so I'm stuck with that. Yeah, that's
Facebook.
probably it.
You're on Facebook.
I am on Facebook, and also you can find my website at benrock.com. Check out my reel.
Yeah, there you go.
Connect to my socials. Read my bio that I had to write that I hate writing.
All that good stuff. Josh, hit us with it. Where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok till probably the 19th when it gets banned. Who knows? You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm a realtor here in the San Fernando Valley. Again, want to say our prayers for the Pacific Palisades right now. It's going to be a long process. I think the fire's about 17% contained. Last I checked, but who knows? Little scary for us. Last Friday, thought it was too close for comfort, but luckily we did not have to evacuate. So say a little prayer for us.
Will do.
Yeah, we'll do, man. And yeah, hearts go out to that whole area. Dear Lord. But Ben, I'm hoping you guys are okay. Josh, I'm hoping you guys are okay.
We could see the fire from my house on Friday in the valley, like you could see it at the top of Mulholland, but it never successfully made it down into. I'm in Sherman Oaks. It never made it down into Encino.
No, we were close.
Yeah, it was a little terrifying, and next week it could happen here. I mean, we just lucked out that it didn't catch in the valley.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, hopefully it just gets contained quick and the damage will just stop. That's all we can really hope for right now. And
yeah, I know, like I literally know 7 people whose homes just burned to the ground.
Oh my God. Ugh.
Yeah, so sad. Met somebody whose house burned to the ground at our office.
Oof.
Jeez.
Yep.
Shout out
A mutual friend of mine in Trey's lost their house.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know if they want their name said out loud, so I won't.
Oh, no, the smarter
Yeah,
call. All right. Hearts out there yet again. Bob, where can we find you on social?
My hearts go out to everybody as well, and my prayers to both of you. Stay safe, as well as everybody else who might be watching. You can find me over on my YouTube channel, Was It Good, at Bob Loves Movies, as well as you can find me on X and on Criticless. And as always, everybody's social media will be in the description below.
Nice. Thank you, sir. I'm just still with the old people, Facebook and LinkedIn. No changes there. That's me. All right. Ben, I can't thank you enough for being on, man. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And I'm
Yeah,
glad
absolutely.
I got the camera to work. And the secret was I was trying to do it on Chrome, and Chrome didn't work, and it worked on Firefox with no other changes.
Oh,
Firefox. I haven't fired up Firefox in like 15 years.
Wow, that's strange. Wow. How about that?
Who knows?
And I
Those
use
things
Chrome.
can happen. Yep.
Well, I have a weird Kluge camera setup. That's why.
Got it.
I gotcha.
Nice.
All right. Well, thanks again,
Thank
Ben.
you, Ben.
Guys, Bob, Josh. We'll see you guys later.
Take
All
it
right.
easy.
You have a good night.
All right.
Good
You
night.
too.
Okay. Bye.